Want to pray? Yeah. Please join me in prayer. Heavenly Father, thank you for allowing us to gather in your presence to discuss the business of Henry County. Heavenly Father, please grant peace and wisdom to everyone in the audience as well as the board members so that we may carry your business in your will and your way. Please bless those that are protecting this great nation and the farmers that are feeding it. In Jesus' name we pray. Amen.
Amen. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Madam Clerk, roll call, please.
This is a regular meeting of the Henry County Board of County Commissioners being held on Tuesday, August 13th, 2019 at 5 p.m. in the City Commission Chamber in Lewiston, Florida. In attendance are Chairman Mitchell Wills, Vice Chair Emma Bird, Commissioners Darrell Harris, Commissioner Michael Swindle, Commissioner Carson Turner, County Administrator Jennifer Davis, County Attorney Mark Lapp, Chief Deputy Clerk Tim Berry.
Thank you, ma'am. Before we get started tonight, we got a couple of gentlemen we'd like to recognize. First off, Mr. Martin, Randy Martin, is our new city manager. Hey. How are you tonight, sir? Welcome to the meeting.
Thank you for recognition. Look forward to working with you.
Yes, sir, we do as well. Thank you. And then we have Mr. Brandon Thomas. He is a new community relations manager, U.S. Sugar. Glad to have you with us.
Awesome.
Thank you.
Mr. Chair,
Yes, sir.
we're going to forgive that Mr. Thomas is originally, Palm Beach County resident, Glades Day Gator. We're going to let all that go by because he's on our team now. So we're going to let that go. So.
Well,
See if it works.
Some of them are going to do it, not everybody.
that's going to be a tough nut to crack. We'll work on it. We got visitor cards if you want to speak tonight, if you would, please. We got a couple filled out already. Just get it, fill it out, turn it into the clerk, and she'll make sure that you get time to come up and speak. All right, let's get started tonight. First thing on the agenda is bids, 2019-23.
I move to accept option one.
A second.
I would just like to add something for the record. And so with this, the only thing that we're not sure about is the deductible reset at this time. So we'll be requesting upon your approval for that to happen, but we are not sure if that is going to be able to happen 100%. So right now we're on a 10-1 year. We were on a calendar year. When we moved to United Healthcare, we went to an October 1st deductible year to line up with our fiscal year. Florida Blue, Blue Cross Blue Shield, they are on a calendar year. So we're going to have to ask if we can get it changed, and we're not sure that is going to be able to occur. It could, and it may not. So I just want to make sure you are all aware.
So if it don't, what happens?
What's that number, Mr. Chair?
If it doesn't, what'll happen is employees that use the insurance from October 1st to December 1st, whatever deductible that they paid into, typically, on January 1, it would start over. And so they may lose that deductible amount of dollars if it can't be reset.
Okay. Yes, sir, come on.
Darren Bryan, Albert Insurance. Ms. Davis, I know this is very confusing, and I may have caused some of the confusion prior to explaining, but your deductible didn't reset to October 1st, and so it's still on a January reset. What we were trying to get worked out with the potential new carrier was so that employees wouldn't have two resets in the same year, so we had asked
Oh, I
PRM.
just said it the opposite.
Yeah,
I'm sorry. Okay.
we asked PRM if perhaps they could take a file from United Healthcare with the accumulators, and they did it. They did say Paul from Gallagher did acknowledge that could happen, so that employees won't have to have two resets in the same year. So I think we're pretty close to that. I mean, we did get confirmation that they could accept it. What we could help you do is get that file, request that file from United Healthcare, so that employees wouldn't have that two resets in the same year.
Okay.
Okay, so it was just opposite of what
Just
you were
the
saying.
opposite.
Yes, ma'am.
Mr. Chair,
Yes, sir.
Jennifer or Darren, either one of y'all can. Neither one of y'all are saying that there's going to be a pretty strong fiscal impact either way, except to the individual insured person potentially, correct? Because of the potential loss of that premium. No.
There shouldn't be.
Okay.
There really shouldn't be. What will happen is that on October 1st, or right there prior to, we can ask United Healthcare to give us that accumulator file.
Okay.
They will send it directly to the folks at Florida Blue or at PRM, whichever. They'll tell us exactly who to send that to. And then it usually takes a couple weeks for that file to be loaded. And in that file, it will have what every employee's accumulators, deductibles, and out-of-pocket maximums have accumulated to at that point, right? And then there's a time period that it'll take for that file to load. Individual folks can take a picture on their My UHC website prior to 10/1 and could show what their accumulators are, and they can work with your staff, with Laley, and to get that information to PRM so that folks, that if they have to have, if they're going to the doctor or something, and they say, I've already met my deductible, then the folks at PRM have agreed, or Mr. Abert said, that they would try and manually put those numbers into the system before that file's loaded.
Are you in agreement with that? Okay,
Okay.
thank you.
So there shouldn't be, Commissioner, there shouldn't be a major impact when it comes to deductibles and out-of-pocket maximum for the move.
Okay.
There shouldn't be.
Thank you, sir.
I did misunderstand.
We got a motion by Mr. Harrison, a second by Ms. Byrd. Is there any further discussion on this? Seeing none, all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Thank you. On the consent agenda,
Move to-
B4 and C2 we are taking off. We're deleting.
Deleting both?
Yes, sir. B4 and C2.
I move to accept the remainder of the agenda.
Second.
Got a motion by Commissioner Harris, second by Commissioner Byrd. Any further discussion? Seeing none, all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Thank you. Okay, there's nothing under awards and appearances tonight. So
Bring it back.
first thing we have under public hearings is a petition CPA 18-0006.
Yes, good evening, Commissioners. Margaret Elmbridge. This is simply a correction to the acreage for a previously approved comprehensive plan map amendment for BHT properties. There's no additional assessments that were needed. It was just simply an acreage change, and it was our
Motion to
correction.
approve.
Second?
Yeah, motion by Commissioner Turner, second by Commissioner Swindle. This is a public hearing, so if anyone in the public would like to address this. Seeing none, is there any further discussion on the board? All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Number 2, Mr. Lapp.
Yes, Mr. Chairman, members of the board. At the May 28th meeting, you directed that we proceed with starting to use a special magistrate for code enforcement cases. So some implementing ordinance amendments were necessary. We already did have a section that kind of dealt with special magistrate. It wasn't called that, but it effectively was that. It was just sitting in the code book. It needed some updates. The other sections of our code that allow us to do enforcement by other means, court, and the letter writing and lien process, the county performing the work and liening. We did some cleanups to those to make it clear that we can use the special magistrate process or any of the processes. So basically we can pursue any violation under any of the processes. So that's the way our code is going to be set up now. But we understand the board direction is to use special magistrate, and that's what we will do as far as practically we'll be using that. So those are the amendments. I did have an update for you regarding the process. You know, we got the RFP out, you know, for getting a special magistrate. That's under consideration by various firms now, and is an August 28th deadline. Plan to get it to you for consideration of picking a magistrate September 10th. And then I also clarified that on the cost recovery, we're not going to be able to get the special magistrate's costs back. That's, the Attorney General says we can't recover that, but we can recover staff's time and postage and some other hard costs. So we're not going to have full cost recovery like we thought we might be able to. So that's pretty much it. I'll take any questions. Oh, and City of LaBelle. And so as far as collaborating with other governments, Margaret checked with all the cities and counties within our 2-county area here, and only LaBelle was interested. And so we decided the best way to approach it would be an interlocal agreement to deal with a restriction, a legal restriction on one magistrate technically serving or separately serving for 2 local governments, which isn't allowed, but by interlocal agreement, it can be done basically as a subcontractor of us. So that's the plan with the city of LaBelle.
Well, Mr. Chair, I appreciate everything the code enforcement have done, and the more I looked into this, the more I read it, I'm not in agreement with it, and the reason why is because in the county, it's going to allow certain things to happen. It's going to allow the grass to grow. It's going to allow certain things to stand, and it's going to allow the area to look bad. And not only just that, when I looked at the time period, it's not that much difference, and they're doing such a great job. If you look at the turnover that have happened in the past, I read different ones where code enforcement went out and they had such great improvements. So as of today, I'm not in agreement with it. At first I was, but I'm not now after I began to read it. And look a little bit more into it. I think that they're doing a great job. I commend them on it, and I don't like the wait time, the period time, because I can see the grass growing, and it'd be a period of time before it get cut again, and I just don't want to have to deal with that within the community because I think it should happen a little bit faster. So I'm not in agreement with it because I'm concerned about the sore eye. We always talk about the sore eye when you're riding into the outskirts, but it's going to be a sore eye inside, so I'm not in agreement with it for that reason.
What's the wait time, Mark?
It's the same. It's basically the same process, but
Is it longer?
Well, just to be clear, that I mean, Ms. Bird is referring to the tall grass violations specifically, and that in our code we deal with under the public nuisance. We have been dealing with as a public nuisance, and we have a letter that goes out with a 15-day period to correct, and if the landowner doesn't fix it on his or her own, then we staff retain a contractor who then goes out and mows, and then we send an invoice and then do a lien. So, depending how fast that moves, it can be all taken care of within 30 days, from observation of violation to completion of mowing.
And I'll just point out too, in my district, it is never handled within 30 days, never.
And
If it is, I mean, it's like a 10% hit on that.
And it used to be longer than 30 days, too.
Yeah, the code did used to provide that the landowner was given 30 days from the letter to fix it, and then with an amendment you approved about a year and a half ago, that was reduced to 15 days.
Then you wait.
So that's the current process. The magistrate process, we're going to be sending a notice. Let me see what kind of time period, if the statute specifies how much time the landowner has to address it before it goes in front of the magistrate. But they have to be given an opportunity to fix it under the magistrate process, and then I'll look for that time frame in a minute. And then if they don't, then they're scheduled for the special magistrate for a hearing in front of him or her. They have to be subpoenaed to come to that, and then we hold that. And hopefully at the hearing, our expectation will be that the special magistrate will issue his ruling on the spot and will require corrective action, right? We'll say the corrective action is ordered then and give a period of time. We can't dictate to him or her what time frame to give. I think we're going to ask for pretty short time frames. We're going to ask for 15 days or something pretty short.
And it's also fair to say that I think, I'm being presumptuous here, but I think that Judge Hill has been kind of aggressive on his orders thus far. He's been saying, we're not going to give you 90 or 120 days. He's saying we want to get in there and kind of react. We want to see change occur. And so, I think that the groundwork's being laid for, in my opinion, for the special magistrate to come in, take this essentially off of the county docket, and for that to be shown now to a special, a specified magistrate that's what they're going to hear. And they're going to be able to speed up that process, so to speak. It's not going to be 1 day a month, but you all can correct me if it's more than 1 day a month, but I think that it's still just 1 day a month that we're hearing it thus far. And the amount of energy that I don't know how many code enforcement officers, 2 or 3, I don't know. My classmate's been by my office 2 or 3 times and has told me get my butt in the truck with him and let's go look at things together. And I appreciate him doing that. I've seen a change, but I think that this is, in my opinion, I don't want to use the word monumental, but I think this is the kind of change that we've been talking about for quite some time. And I think that this is a shift, a philosophical shift in how we're going to move to address some of these issues. I still go back to the number one thing, other than cleaning up blight for me, is the fact that we're not out funding. Correct me if I'm wrong, Mark and Jennifer, on this particular rabbit hole that we're running down now. When we engage the special magistrate, code enforcement opens up a case. They find that whatever the issue is, but let's just use high grass, mowing, public nuisance. That's the issue that's been divulged. Special magistrate is hearing it. The county is now not going to use said contractor to go out and expend resources and mow that grass. That's going to be a tab that's going to be rolling. We're not going to have that overhead cost associated with that anymore.
Correct. We won't be doing it initially, but going to hearing, having the magistrate order correction. After he orders correction and the landowner fails to fix it, we do have the right under statute to go back to the magistrate to ask for permission to mow it and lien it for our expense. But that won't be the routine. That will be the exception.
Hopefully that will be. And then there's also one more caveat here that I think that we're now going to plant a flag in the ground that says, hey, clean up your nuisance, clean up your problem that is affecting everyone's property values. Stop being a turd to all of your neighbors and engage the process, or understand we're going to take it from you.
So
can I be any more direct?
I see those that is abiding by what we want them to do, but then those same people that haven't done anything, they're not going to do it. They didn't do it before. They're not going to do it now. So my thing of it is for us to allow that grass to grow up, this thick of the community. I'm just not in agreement with it, because if they stay next door to me and I got to wait for that grass, right now I'm dealing with people with grass and snakes coming out of it, and I need it gone. And Margaret, not Margaret, one of them been really good about it, but I just don't want to see the community look like that while we wait, because if they didn't apply and do what they need to do in the past, they're not going to do it now. So the people that are applying, you're doing a great job, and they are cutting the grass, and it looks good. And I don't have any problem with code enforcement, because people, they're moving. It's moving. So the ones that's not applying is not going to apply just because we send special magistrate to it. So I'm just not in agreement with it.
Well, some of them have never cut it.
Say it again. They what?
Some of them have
never cut it.
But a lot of them in my district live out of town, so they don't care. And the lien will build up so high that nobody's going to buy it.
That's the problem, in my opinion, right now, is that we're allowing that lien to build up so high. We are routinely sending someone out there to run up the tab to perform work on behalf of the county. The county, for lack of a better word, is a giant lawnmower service.
So either
that's not appropriate to the taxpayer.
Let the grass grow, or you.
So Mark, what happens if nothing happened? If they never come in and
great question.
Do anything about it? We done put liens on it, right, but yet we still cutting it. What happens with the special magistrate?
Right. Well, let me answer a question I skipped over earlier. The statute, as far as the time they have to fix it, after the first notice by the code inspector has to give the violator, quote, a reasonable time to correct the violation. The statute says a reasonable time. So I would say that our 15-day will probably be what we'll default to give them. So notice letter goes out, 15 days to correct, doesn't get mowed, staff, conceivably on day 16, but probably not every single case, but day 16 they can start the process to get it on the next docket for the special magistrate. And that would be probably 3 to 4 weeks out, because we need to subpoena the landowner about the proceeding. You can't just hold it next week. You got to get them the notice. So you say, let's say 3 or 4 weeks out from that period, then you go to the hearing. And then the hearing's held, and presume let's say the landowner doesn't show up because they don't care. So the magistrate orders the landowner to mow it within, she picks the days, but let's say 15 days. And then that order is provided by mail to the landowner. They don't do anything. Then we come back in front of the magistrate and ask for fines to start being imposed, because the initial order from the magistrate is just fix it and pay our enforcement costs, but no fine gets assessed yet. But then when he fails to fix it, we come back again, say magistrate.
We're potentially 45, could be 60 days into the process at this point.
So that's 15 days for a letter. 3 to 4 days to get it back out to them, 15 days for another letter. The grass is tall as me, and I
Yeah,
don't wanna see it.
but hold on. That process, what you just laid out, happens today, right now, with the exception of, we actually, let's say in that 45-day window, let's say they do it in 45 days. The county stops and says, okay, bad performer, tell you what we're going to do. We're going to go, on the county's taxpayers' dollars, we're going to go hire a contractor to mow your grass for you. Even though you have no intentions of doing it, we're going to be your big brother and we're going to fix your problem. And that's what we're going to do. And then we're going to give you a bill that, by the way, you haven't paid attention to anything that we've told you thus far, and you're not going to pay that bill. But we're going to do that. So that's what we're doing today.
They're not gonna pay the bill.
Yeah, they're not going to pay the bill.
And they're not going to pay it. If I wasn't going to do it yesterday, I'm not going to do it today.
That's right. But now there's going to be repercussions, and we're going to take said property.
So Mark,
So at the end, you'll be able to take this property.
So we go back to the magistrate because they've not complied with the order, and we at least ask for fines to start, daily fines to start accruing, which can result in a lien for the daily fines, which can be run up pretty quick and make the value of the property be, overcome by the fines. We also could, at that point, if it's sufficiently high to be a threat to the public health, safety, and welfare, that's what we have to have in order to go back out ourselves to do it. We could ask for permission to go out there and mow it ourselves, and then include that in the lien amount.
So we could say when it hits 36 inches or 24 inches, we're gonna issue said contractor. But now that's another cost that goes on that tab as well.
Right.
Okay.
Right. So then we get permit, and then the special magistrate presumably would authorize that, and then we could go out and mow and put that cost on the lien, which is recorded. And so then the property's fixed. Then there's a lien with a fine and the corrective action, or excuse me, the remedial action cost that's put on the property, and that's accruing. And then we can foreclose after 3 months. It
After
has to
how
be
long?
unpaid for 3 months.
90 days.
After that, it has to sit for 90 days before we can start foreclosure. We'd probably write a letter or two in the middle before that, because just
Want to be prudent.
so after you
Want to
do
be
the
prudent.
Yeah.
foreclosure in 90 days, how many more days?
No, it's probably going to be closer to 180 days before you're going to be able to go into foreclosure, because if you run the clock back, let's use a long timeline. You're at 60 days to just get to that stage one, if you will. Then you add another 90. So right there, you're at 150. So you're 6 months out before you're even starting that foreclosure proceeding.
Right.
Maybe a little bit less.
Yeah.
Maybe a little bit more.
So how long would it take us for us to get the land?
Probably 3. Well, we just had one foreclosure. We just did one. Filed it in March. It was scheduled for sale September 4th.
6
And the
months?
proceedings leading up to that were that 3 months. So you're talking crowding a year.
Well,
6 months?
Oh, well, I
the
mean,
suit was filed in March.
well, but that's what I'm saying. But there was things leading up to the suit, though, right? I mean, so if we lead up to that, so you're talking a year's process by the time we realize it and it gets identified as, and we start going through the initial steps, and by the time we get all the way through, they don't react, and then we go through the foreclosure. You're talking a year.
A grand total. Right.
And the goal here isn't to take anyone's property.
Done. I hope we never take
The
one.
goal is to get people to come into compliance.
Right.
And understand that this, we've had people come to the chambers and tell us, I thumb a nose at your letters.
Yeah.
I don't care what your letters say. I'm not going to do what you tell me to do. And I just think that we need to put more teeth into it.
Yeah.
Well, I'm not in agreement with it. Appreciate your effort, for what you did. I just think that if I don't have a empty lot on the right or the left side of me, but that person that do is not going to be very pleased. They're not pleased with it to their knees right now. I'm pretty sure they won't please with it head high, so I'm just not in agreement with it.
Well, the reality comes down to the special magistrate doesn't have any other powers than the judge. Obviously, the judge has the same power as the special magistrate. So what it's going to come down to is, one, what we are paying to have it done, which maybe I misunderstood, but I thought we were recouping that cost.
I think
If
that's
we paid someone to mow when the fines or whatever was levied, I thought that was part of the deal. Is that correct?
Not till you get this.
No, well, you're not going to get it back until you get it anyway.
Yeah.
But that is we do that now. We levy that cost onto that property now,
So
correct?
and we will continue to do that.
Right.
And
So
we
the
can't
only
get paid
difference
back on
is
that.
the special magistrate really may be an opportunity to see him twice a month as compared to once a month. That's really the only difference, correct?
Yes, sir.
Volume.
And you could.
Volume.
You could.
Well, now,
actually-
volume-wise, again, let's ask this. Volume-wise, are we going to have enough cases that we can bring a special magistrate in twice a month? Are we going to bring him in for 3 people? Or are we going to bring him in for a dozen?
Well, then that.
And I know this is extra work that would go to the special magistrate that the clerk's doing now. I get all that. But on the same token, are we spending money so we can say we had 2 meetings before the special magistrate? Okay, one had 30 people, the other one had 3.
I don't know what the
So-
volume would be. I don't know
Right,
what it's been the
that's
last
the
3
question.
months.
So,
I think it's
we
in the
need to
teens
make
for
sure
the
we're
last-
diligent about what the money we are spending. If we're going to spend the money to do it, it's going to be, it's going to be a corrective action. We all agree. None of us wants to take property. But the fact is, if we're doing this and we're only seeing 2 to 3 people in the second part of the month, we're really wasting funds. Well, what we're spending on the special magistrate and everything else. So we just need to weigh this out and look at it and make sure we're doing.
Well, Chairman, and if you'll remember from day one, that was my main concern.
Right.
Was the volume there?
So I see a lot of similarities, but we got X amount of staff today producing enough to go to the judge without adding manpower and being able to ramp up that cost. Now, I'm not saying that's a bad thing, because maybe then we can put more in front of the special magistrate if we had another human, boots on the ground, say, you know what I'm talking, or contracted out like they've done some or whatever. But there's no sense in going to a magistrate if we're not going to push the volume.
Well, the only difference I see, and right now, what I understand is the clerk's office handles all the paperwork now. With a special magistrate, they would not. That's correct. Okay, so there is that difference. So we're looking at man hours that we're already using and looking at man hours we will be using. But again, if that special magistrate isn't coming in and doing but 2 or 3 cases at a pop on the second month, we're really, to me, we're kind of wasting resources.
Yeah.
So we just we need to weigh this out.
And not just that, I believe I'm looking at the FYI where the staff collected $5,000 since January. Then they also collected $2,600 to the clerk. So they're doing what need to be done. To add on to it, it's irrelevant.
Well, Margaret, if you don't have enough, you wouldn't have to call them, would you?
That's correct, and that's what I was
So
going to.
if
I may.
you had 3, just don't call them.
But we're back to the same process then, the once a month.
Yeah. We just go to the judge.
No, we don't even need to go to the judge.
Well,
should go to the issue.
At this
We're
point,
at
as a special
We're pulling
magistrate,
it into
you won't be using the
compliance.
judge.
The goal here is compliance with code enforcement. The goal here
Right.
is not allowing John or Jane Smith or whoever it may be to continue to have blight. And so we're trying to bring people into compliance. We're trying to give our code enforcement officers a different tool in the toolbox. We've said on multiple times, what tools do we have out there? We've talked to our colleagues throughout. I think that we've heard that this is an opportunity for us to increase our ability to engage in code enforcement.
We're going to learn as we go. I mean, we just have to be flexible on whether the expectation is and the reasonableness is for us to go 2 times a month. I mean, I've never really thought that we needed the 2 times a month, but this would give us the opportunity to do it if we need it. So that's how I would recommend we approach it. It's
a hired gun. We're bringing them in to work for
we
us.
will use them twice a month if we need it.
That's it.
I mean, that's just plain and simple.
Speed everything up.
And there's no foul associated with us not bringing them in on a second. There may be, in a utopian situation, in my opinion, we're 6 months. Maybe we have them 12 times. Maybe we only have them 6 times. But then it falls off. And now we have them on a contract and we say, hey, we need you 4 times a year.
Right.
The city of Clewiston has a special magistrate
Yes.
right now. Do we know what their volume is?
No.
Okay.
No. But that's what, this is a new process that we would be embarking on. We just have to see how it works. And if it turns out that it doesn't work, then we'll come back and talk about it.
Jennifer, what are your thoughts? I mean,
I feel like I've heard all of you in different ways since I've been here, and we've been talking about code enforcement, and I think we all can agree that we need to do more code enforcement and clean up some of the blight countywide. And in a perfect world, once the word gets out or certain things happen, whether it be in front of a judge or a magistrate, and we start those daily fines.
love the
Yeah.
dog.
Yeah.
Anybody else?
Yeah.
I think we may all be on candid camera right now to see if anybody's
Yes.
Everyone will start cleaning up themselves, and then we will have less use for a judge and or magistrate.
Well-
I think that's our goal.
That's our goal.
Yeah.
But I feel, in the short term, we're going to have more volume. We're doing corridor sweeps. We are
Yes.
doing certain neighborhood sweeps. We are working, our code enforcement officers and Margaret and her entire team are working very hard to get the worst of the worst, if you will, countywide, and there's a lot of work to be done. And so I think in the short term, going through that process, the volume is going to be there. But the long-term goal is that the volume will decrease, and for our sake, for the homeowner's sake, and for the county's sake, and then we can taper off as needed. So whenever we bring this back before you with the special magistrate in August, you know, the contract, if you will, however it's worded, it needs to be worded as such, you know, so it's as
Right.
needed, basically.
Right, and the contract will likely be in September, just
Right.
because of the timing of the RFP and such. But something else that I wanted to mention, because Jennifer and Mark and I have talked about this, is, for example, the sweep we've talked about for Montour. We don't have enough manpower to really do that in a timely manner. So we've talked about hiring.
Timely to you, Ms. Emledge, I mean, you're saying Montour is probably a 90-day effort, or is it?
You know what? I'd be pulling out of the air. So we do know that it does take quite a while to get
I know
through.
if you went district-wide to any of our districts, but especially like a district the size of mine, you know, you could be 6 months just getting a portion thereof,
Yes.
you know, of District 5.
Right.
If you wanted to be thorough and go through it with a microscope.
So the idea here is for us to be able to make it through the whole county and methodically, but some areas we really need to have additional manpower. So in order to have that, we're looking at contract work from a company that's the umbrella is Safe Built. And we can piggyback on another jurisdiction that already has them under contract with the requirements that we require, but that we can just hire them for certain sweeps or timeframes when we need it. Because, like you just pointed out, for us to make it through certain areas, the rest of the county is then falling in, you know, disrepair per se.
Yeah.
Hopefully not, but so, and I mean that all goes to the right amount of manpower, but I don't think that we, at this point, I don't want to suggest that we hire a full-time body. I would like to be able to have the consultant dollars to be able to utilize consultants for our sweeps and get us through, you know, the areas that we haven't been able to get to, so that we can still remain on top of the other areas. I mean, basically, so we can have a countywide coverage as much as possible.
Well, we've been talking about this quite a while. I'm not against it, for sure. I'm not, you know, I'm the one that brought it back last year and said, hey, Sarasota County said this is amazing. And everyone kind of got me to thinking about it. But again, it could be a process. We engage the process. If it isn't working, then we go,
Right.
we haven't lost, we go back.
Right.
So I can see the benefits of maybe progressing faster, and I
Yes.
just,
Well,
all I can
and-
say is I guess we need to enter in and see what happens, and if it doesn't
Yeah.
work, we just come back out.
Exactly, and just be mindful that it's going to cost upfront dollars for this to work, and so you need to make sure you give me a lot of money in my budget. Where's Sheriff Whidden? He was doing a great job asking for more money. I was wondering if I could use his. Anyway, but
Don't want his answer.
yeah. Anyway, just wanted to. Yeah, I appreciate it, and I think we just need to dive in and see how it works.
We've been talking about it for about 6 months now. So
No,
why would it hurt to
it's
give it a
well over
whirl?
a year.
I
Well over
move,
a
I
year.
move for option one.
Okay. Do I have a second?
I'll second the motion.
Got a motion by Commissioner Harris, second by Commissioner Swindle. This is also a meeting of the public. Anyone like to speak to this?
I think that dog was.
She went out. Phil.
No one? All those in favor?
Aye.
If you want to come speak, come on.
I'd like to ask a question.
Sure.
Too late now.
For instance, with Montura, when you're talking about the clean, oh, I'm sorry, Brenda Hoots, for the record. Okay, so my question is, when we're cleaning up in Montura, for example, are we talking mowing there?
Everything.
Everything.
That'll be
No,
everything.
no.
Vacant, many vacant lots, I mean,
No,
That's
we're not
what I
mowing,
wondered.
but it could be a
because
grass violation.
She was
It could
talking
be.
about
Just
mowing.
mowing, right? It was just mowing, but it's all encompassing. Everything
So
from debris,
who decides,
cars.
here it's going to be mowing, over there it's only junk?
No, it's gonna,
It's
it'll all be,
everything.
it'll all be governed the same. Just
Right.
certain areas have different blights, what it is.
And
Right.
my problem is, in my community, the grass.
Right.
So that's why I specified.
We have
the
many
mowing.
vacant lots that
So, yes.
are never mowed, and
Right. Have never been
there's
mowed.
overgrowth, and
And there's potentially thousands of dollars of liens on those, along with, and there may be some lots that have no liens on them, Ms. Hoots.
right.
And there may be some lots that have thousands of dollars or hundreds of dollars of liens, and they get mowed 4 times a year via the county contracted hired subcontractor. So
In Montura,
I can't speak. I know
Not so
that
much
think so.
I can
Montura,
speak
but there are
to
other
I can
ones
speak
that are
to
more
my
high-traffic
my
areas.
district.
well, that's why I'm asking what decides whether it's to be mowed, or
the Hendry County
you're
Code
saying
Enforcement
that I have to
Officer.
clear my lot.
But that's according to the code. If the code requirement, if they come to check your house and the grass meets that, that's part of the code.
There's no house on it; it's
Nope.
vacant.
Let me go all the way through it. Calm down. But there's what they're looking for. There's violations. Those violations pertain to each piece of property, regardless who owns it, regardless what the property
Right.
is. So there's a list of things that they're going to look for. If that property doesn't have a home, then maybe it's the growth. If it doesn't have home and growth, maybe it has cars that's junked out there. But there's a list of criteria that triggers that. So each parcel obviously will be different. Yours would be different than mine. Mine will be different than Miss Bird's. So, but it's the same criteria, but it's just different options in there that you have to look at.
And just-
Chair, to a point that Ms. Hoots, I think I'm understanding, tracking with what you're saying now. So let me use Pioneer as an example. Pioneer has a lot of lots that are not developed.
Correct.
There's palmettos,
Woods.
beautiful pine trees, a lot of things that are on it right now.
Hollies.
There you go.
Yeah.
I do not think that it's the intention of this board, and it's not my intention, for that lot to be
Cleared.
cleared and a
Right.
cost incurred, and here it is.
Okay.
If that's not legal, then we're going to have to find a way to engage that conversation and understand what are the ramifications and how we can circumvent, or how we actually bring compliance in and what's
We're trying to be in
agreeable to.
compliance with something the state has set out.
Man, this is going to be Hendry County's
Okay.
rule. We're waiting on
But I thought-
Tallahassee to do something.
But you're
It's not
saying
going to work.
being in compliance with your own rule. Then.
Yeah, exactly.
Okay.
Just on the issue of mowing, our code provides that the standard of, or the prohibition on tall grass only applies if the subject lot, the tall lot, is within 500 feet from any other developed site used for human habitation. So it needs to be within 500 feet of a house.
Okay.
So if you got a tall grass and there's not a house within 500 feet, you can keep your tall grass.
You can keep
For
going.
example, I have a lot with a home on it. The lot next door is mine, and it's vacant, but it's overgrown.
You gotta mow it.
It's never been mowed. It's overgrown with Florida hollies.
Well, you gotta start.
I got to clear it.
Yeah, you gotta start
No.
mowing.
It's complaint based usually.
Well,
right?
that's what
If your
it
neighbor
sounds like
complains.
to an extent.
Complaint based.
No, and it does. You're right. I can tell you that a month ago I got
Verified.
chewed up and spit out over a pasture. This thing's been a pasture since I was a kid, and all of a sudden it was a mowing violation.
Yeah,
So it's each individual case again.
but that's where it's scary. Each
No,
individual.
absolutely. There's unintended consequences, Mr. Chair. I remember when we started the code enforcement conversation, and I don't think President Company included, but there were code enforcement officers that went into Pioneer, and if you had a Connex, you were Satan himself, and it didn't matter that Connex had been there longer than we all have been here. You had to get it gone. And boy, I mean that got sideways quick. There have been 2 or 3 little nuances like that have occurred. So
Okay.
I understand what you're saying from an
You're
unintended
making
consequence.
reference to a list. So is there that list available then?
There is there's actually very
List.
good documentation that Henry County has, in my opinion, that shows what is compliant and what is not. And it's actually amazing some of the literature that we
And
have.
How all that happens, Brenda, is they pick the
At
phone
least
up
I've seen
and
it
call.
before.
The grass is too high next to my house, get it mowed.
I call on myself.
And-
And
Not
that's
gonna
one of the
happen.
concerns that I have. It's not so much of the fields, it's somebody that live next door that do have that vacant lot.
Well, in
And,
some of our communities,
Yeah,
the dwellings are so sporadic.
yeah.
You know,
And that's my biggest concern. It's not just the grass.
Harlem's-
Once the grass start growing, then the car is there. Once the car is there, then the garbage bags are there. So, and it's going to be set like that for a period of time. It's not so much saying I don't want it to happen, but I don't want that sore
well,
eye.
and I was just concerned because we have so many vacant lots, undeveloped. You know, if it states that it's not developed with a culvert, or if it has a culvert, if it has a pump, has an electrical pole, then okay, does it have to be cleared? Stages like that.
Next door. It's not the subject property, how developed it is, it's how developed the neighboring property is.
Yes.
Yeah,
100 feet
and the
away.
house is next door.
And you're
to
not going to
this-
call in on yourself, are you?
I know to myself, but the guy over in the next lot might.
I mean, we all have the same goals.
Right,
We
and-
want it to be cleaned up. You know, my thing is the
Just I
period of
can't
time.
see
Yeah.
everyone mowing the whole county.
Yeah.
That's where I was questioning.
No.
Okay. Thank you.
Good question.
Did we vote on that?
No, sir, we was in the middle of the vote. Before we vote, does anyone else want to speak to this? No? Okay, we had a motion and a second. All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Yes, ma'am. 4-1. Make sure I turn the right page here. Okay, several things under FYI you guys see under staff reports. Ms. Davis?
Yes, the first item I have before you is ratification of the application filed with the FAA under the Airport Investment Partnership Program for Everglades Airport. This was submitted to the FAA on August 8th. There's a resolution for your approval and also requesting permission for any subsequent changes that need to occur with county administrator approval.
I move option 1.
Second.
Motion by Commissioner Swindle, second by Commissioner Harris.
And just to be clear, in the resolution that you have in your book was corrected. The whereas clause that says it was filed on August 7th was changed to August 8th.
Okay.
Any further discussion? Seeing none, all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries.
I do have another item on that same subject, also to authorize a letter of support. We'll basically be writing ourselves a letter of support, but they are seeking letters of support for various different government, cities and so forth, if you can give
You need
permission
approval for that as well?
Yes.
So moved.
Second.
Motion by Commissioner Swindle, second by Commissioner Byrd. Any further discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries.
I have a couple of agenda additions. I don't know if you want to do it now or if you want to wait till after Margaret does her.
Go ahead.
Are you-
I see
You're
number
up.
2 on there. We got number 2 yet, or?
No, not yet.
We haven't gotten to number 2, correct?
No.
Okay.
I think so.
Okay, go ahead.
Okay. The next item I have is request for an appraisal on a piece of property that someone is interested in selling to potentially the county. I have discussed this a couple times with them, and I think the first step would be for us to get an appraisal to see what it appraises at, to be able to have a
Mr. Chair,
deeper
sir.
conversation.
by law, do we have to have an appraisal, or are we?
By ordinance.
Okay.
Your ordinance specifies that if it's expected to cost more than $50,000.
All right, so I make a motion for said appraisal to occur.
Second.
Motion by Commissioner Turner, second by Commissioner Swindle. Is there any further discussion on this one? Seeing none? All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries.
And then the next item.
Does everybody know? Does everybody know where the property is located? Okay, good. I just, I think right on WCO and where it's located and everything. I think we really need to be, contemplating what could potentially be there and just controlling our destiny, so to speak, of owning. It's kind of a peninsula around us, and then I think Sugar Land's the adjacent
And
piece. So.
I'm glad you mentioned Peninsula. I misspoke on my email. I said that we own property on 3 sides. We own property on 2 sides.
We got
U.S. Sugar owns,
On the
Your
south
Sugar's
side.
there
of
and
it.
there.
it's like a little turnaround.
Okay.
With the bus where people come in. and
Where
Used to be
that,
a, used to be a building there. Used to be the
Used to be, we played against them in Little League Baseball, International Association of
IAW.
Machinists.
Yeah.
IAM.
IAM. Yeah.
Yeah.
But we own all the property around.
We always beat them.
Right.
We always beat them. Willie Nieves was a good shortstop.
That's important to you,
It
right?
was very important to this process. I was on Hilliard Brothers' team. We smoked them. So what is that address?
It's 1203 South W.C. Owens
1203
Avenue.
South WCO. Okay, good. I'm glad that we're agreeable to that.
We have a motion, right? We did a motion in a second. All good.
I thought we already voted on that.
We did.
Thought we
voted?
did
We're
too.
good. We're done.
Commissioner
On number
Swindle's
2
Moving
now,
along.
He's
Just making sure. I got
still
all
down in
excited.
Florida Keys.
That's right.
He's sleeping.
I have one more item.
Yes, ma'am.
Before you have a letter to the Army Corps requesting the additional comment period for the LOSUM, and I just want permission to send that tomorrow.
So move.
Second it.
Motion by Commissioner Harris, second by Commissioner Byrd. Any further discussion?
Yes, sir. Just a general update. I do think it's important that we send this letter, but I'm pretty sure that the extension's already been awarded. So hopefully, Ms. Davis will be getting confirmation of that in the few hours. Actually, I hope so. I think job well done by y'all as a staff making that happen. So,
Any further discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries.
Thank you, that's all I have.
About number two.
Let me ask you a quick question though, you all, as it relates something I want you all to contemplate. You're aware that United States Sugar Corporation has filed suit, correct? Yep. Everybody is?
Yep.
I really would ask that our county administrator talk with legal counsel from the United States Sugar Corporation and make sure that Jennifer's up to date, up to speed, feels comfortable about all of the dynamics on that. And I think that we should really contemplate as a county. I don't know if we would stand alone. I don't know how that works, to be honest with you, Mark, or joining in that lawsuit. But I think this is one of those moments when they were deviating from the time period associated with public comment and actually not even wanting to have public comment, and then engaging in that 10.5-foot lake discussion. Really, to me, you all, that happened in a vacuum that was not appropriate. And they're essentially, I don't want to speak out of turn, but those are congressional laws that have been set. I mean, that's an act of Congress that they have to follow, and it can't be right for them one day and wrong the next. And if we were to do something like that, we would be 100% out of compliance. It's no different than, it is different. I got a big burr in my saddle about the fact that they were, the Corps of Engineers, for the first time in my memory, has back pumped from the St. Lucie River into Lake Okeechobee. So they're not releasing anything to the St. Lucie Inlet. They're blowing that water out of that estuary, is going back into Lake Okeechobee on the east end of the lake. And I'm just going back to you guys, you can't have it both ways. You can't complain about how hot the water is, how nutrient rich it is coming out of Lake Okeechobee, and then my entire life, how many of you all have heard the phrase back pumping? Mm-hmm. And that's the biggest sin known to human. And now essentially they're requesting for back pumping to occur. And so I think that it needs to be a legal process. So that's it. That's my 2 cents. Thank you all.
So are you saying we might need to?
I think that we need to consider strongly joining in the lawsuit with United States Sugar Corporation on behalf of Hendry County and our constituency. And before we obviously sign up, and especially if they do not open up this comment period, then we 100% need to do it. But I think I'm asking our county administrator to engage in a conversation with United Sugar Corporation and understand all of the different nuances that are going on with this conversation and what the end goal is and what we're trying to accomplish. And so, this is the only time I get to talk to you all, and I think that this is something that is critical to our well-being. And I would ask, that conversation goes to the city of Clewiston, goes on around the lake, So, yeah.
Agreed.
You do agree, Commissioner?
Absolutely.
So Jennifer's going to check in.
And just for the record, they have reached out to me. We haven't had that conversation, but they said they were going to update me on that conversation in the near future, and so I will.
They being U.S. Sugar?
Yes, sir.
Okay.
Okay, before we go on to staff reports, number 2, I would like to go through the walk-on agenda item that I emailed you all a couple of days ago regarding the appointment of our new code enforcement officer. We had one that resigned in July, and we have Larry Precy that is here tonight that is going to be replacing filling the vacancy, and he will be starting on the 15th. And so we need
to
appoint him.
Mr. Chair, I second the motion. Why do we have to do that? Why? I think I've asked this before.
I know you have.
We give her a lot of money to run the county. Why are we approving who does or does not work for y'all?
There's an ordinance. I mean, if you want, we
need to fix that, y'all. This ain't our wheelhouse.
But it's just for a code enforcement officer.
Like, what if my nephew applies to the code enforcement job?
For me too.
By the way, he will never.
Well, she needs to go to Jennifer, and she hires.
It was, we'll let Mark answer.
It may be also, I know it is in the ordinance, but might be based upon statute that the ordinance says that. I don't
statute
know.
is different.
But,
Okay.
but I'll
Okay.
get
Look
that.
into it.
Look
I
at
may
it
stand
next time.
corrected, but if not,
Okay.
I want to get this out. This is the second time I've had to ask you this, Ms.
I
Ambrose.
know.
Yeah.
You need to check the statute.
Yes, sir.
We also used to reconvene for East County Drainage District, and that drove me nuts as well. So
For 15 years.
we changed that, though.
Well, before we do that though, tonight, I guess we're still there, so we got a motion by Commissioner Harrison
And I seconded
and
it.
a second by Commissioner Turner.
Yes, sir.
Any further discussion?
We'll check on that.
Seeing none, all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Welcome aboard.
We're sorry about that either way. I'm not sure.
Thank you for all the work.
Nice. All right, so the next agenda item is regarding the Montour Ranch Estates Fish Farms issues. On July 15th, the Central County Water Control District sent a resolution to the Board of County Commissioners to consider a moratorium on fish farms. Well, staff has reviewed the statutes and what our options are, and we are not able to do a moratorium or pursue a moratorium because we don't permit or regulate fish farms. They are under, FDAC and the, Right to Farm Act situation. What is something that the county can do is address commercial agriculture uses, just overall. Right now, rural residential farm, which is the zoning district for most of Montour, allows commercial agriculture in addition to the household farm animals that they're allowed to have as well. And the only way that the recommendation we have for addressing the fish farm issue that the Central Water and some residents of of Montour have expressed the issues with, the only way to address that would be to remove the ability to have commercial agriculture in their RRF, and an option for that would be to rezone it to rural residential like Pioneer and many other locations throughout the county that allow for household farm animals, but it does not allow for commercial agriculture. And part of our recommendation is, quite honestly, my opinion is most of these properties are 1.25 acres, and to have a commercial agriculture operation on a small parcel in an area that it's residential. I know it says rural, but it's rural residential, so it's still a residential community. And by allowing to have, between two homes, somebody they could have a pig farm. I mean, I'm being extreme, but that's what could happen.
No, Ms. Simmons, we had that very instance.
Mm-hmm.
Were you with us when we?
No.
But we had that very
But,
instance
yes.
in Pioneer, and we had to get IFAS involved, and we had to get FDACs involved, and I mean, it was,
Right. Yes.
gnashing of teeth and hundreds of people and red shirts versus and all this stuff, and but ultimately, I think the county landed right on that. So, Mr. Chair, I'm not trying to cut her presentation short, but can you give us the Reader's Digest version, because I think we all get the gist of where we're at on it, and I agree with what your goal is here.
Well, here tonight we wanted to have the discussion and get direction from the board on what you would recommend how we would address this request, and if you would agree with staff's recommendation, which is to direct us to rezone the RRF to rural residential, and to also amend the code where in a certain section of our code, it allows through a special permit process, somebody that has 5 acres can request a commercial agriculture operation. So we're recommending that be eliminated from being able to occur in Montour. We're not seeing that it would apply to other rural residential areas like Pioneer at this point, because we're focusing on Montour right now is what I'm getting at. But again,
And can you clarify that
yes.
because their board requested that? That's the reason
Yes.
you're focusing on Montour.
Yes, sir.
Okay.
Yes. I'm not saying that we might want to look at other rural residential zone neighborhoods or communities to address any of their commercial ag issues they might have. But
Well, Mr. Chair, one thing I would add though is I do feel, I mean, when you start looking at the weight of water in the rural residential areas of Pioneer and Ladika specifically, and I don't know how many of these fish farms we have, but I can only imagine how impacting that is to Marl roads that are already behind the 8 ball to begin with, and then you add this weather to it. And so, you know, your idea, Ms. Simblage, about taking a 5 acre footprint and having that, what you just said, the language that you said is that we're allowed to, I don't think you said petition, but
right now we're allowed
to rezone.
No, it's a special permit.
Special-
It's not
so
a public
special permit.
hearing, but it's a
So it would be at
review.
y'all's-
And we notify the owners around them, and if there's no objection, then it's approved administratively.
Yeah.
And if there is an objection, then it does come to the board.
It's like a monkey farm. Remember that?
It's or
We did that there.
it's like a
That's how we did the monkey farm.
Commissioner Swindle. It's also like
No.
it's like the meat packing house.
Yep.
Remember that is an example, isn't it? The meat packing house that we were going to have in the
In
backside of
Pioneer.
Ladika.
That's right.
No.
Ladika,
That
right.
was a slaughterhouse that you're talking about, and they're zoned A2. They're agriculture,
All
so
right,
that's
so,
a whole
okay.
different situation.
Margaret, the 1.25, could you have a fish farm there?
On what?
1.25
acre? Right now, yes, you could.
So,
I mean, if you
It
meet
is
all the
occurring
state.
right now.
well, can't we stop right now and then?
The only way to
change
stop
that?
is to take the commercial use off is the only way to stop because we don't regulate fish farms. We have no arm over that. That's what she's saying.
So
we only have
so anybody, they can just go fish farm crazy,
That's correct.
and you can't do anything about it.
That's correct.
I think that's the genesis of why we're here tonight, Commissioner Harris.
Well, then
I
what
think.
are we gonna do about it?
I think that Ms. Emblich is proposing to us to remove the commercial operation side on a rural residential zoning
Well, then,
and to
rewrite the ordinance.
essentially.
then we could do
Right.
something.
Yes, sir.
And
Okay.
and we also have are planning on going to the Central Waters, Central Counties next board meeting on the 28th, and to have the discussion there as well. But we're based on your direction and their request, we can start revising the code so that we can take it through the public hearing process.
So
That-
anyway, you got direction?
Do I have direction?
Yeah.
Mr. Chair, I'll make a motion to approve the recommendation as proposed by Ms. Emblich.
And would that be the direction that we're
That's
talking
right.
about?
Yes, sir. I think so.
Second motion.
Option 1, just to be clear.
Option one.
Option
Yes,
one.
sir.
Okay.
Right. And I'm sure there's folks
Before
here that want to
before we
speak.
get any further, Ms. Miller, did you want to speak with this?
Yes, well, from what she just
No,
Please,
you have
please
to
come up.
here.
Yes, ma'am. State your name, please. Come on up. If you want to speak too, have you got a paper already? Would you come on out and just grab one while she's talking, sir, and go ahead and fill it out, please?
Denise Miller, 615 Cabbage Palm,
Yes, ma'am.
Ventura. From what she just said now, I am lost when it came to the part of domestic animals and household animals. The first part I understood perfectly.
Mr. Chair, I'm sorry. I didn't understand.
She's asking about the domestic animals.
And house.
How would it read? How would the new rezoning read?
I'm going to take a stab at it, but I'm looking forward to hearing from staff. But the way it reads currently is we have a list of animals and the volume that you can have on X number of acres.
Correct.
And that would probably stay the same. You're not wanting to affect that, are you?
We're not going to change it unless they wanted to change it. If
Okay.
they could do.
Okay.
What we're looking at now is just the commercial side of the aspect, correct?
I know.
Right,
There
we
would
don't
be-
have any limit in ours.
Okay.
Okay, so then I'm correct to say, or to reiterate, that the first part is eliminating the commercial part, and that the second part of the rezoning will remain as is now, the animals that we have now.
Yeah, here's what staff's proposing. I'll clarify.
Okay.
All right. What we were proposing is that Well, let me further clarify. The RRF allows you to have unlimited animals. So if we were to rezone it to RR, then it would in fact go under that certain limitations of farm animals. Are you jumping?
No, I'm agreeing with that, but for the new people, but
For the new
existing
people.
is.
Yeah, existing
Right.
is basically
Yes,
grandfathered in,
that's
yeah.
sorry. That's important to understand
That is.
that what's existing is grandfathered in. So we can't shut down the fish farms. We can't tell people to get rid of certain animals,
Right.
what have you. They get to keep what they have. But we're talking about farm animals is what we're talking about.
New pig farm, so to
And-
speak, with
Or anyone coming in new.
with a large number of sows farrowing out. That would not be permissible under the new
The new
regulations.
regulations, if somebody came in and wanted to do a pig farm, they couldn't. Or,
They could not, is that what you're saying?
yes. That's
But
what
if
I
they
said.
already
But not-
established
that's right.
now, they
Not on the
stay.
commercial
They
sites.
grandfathered in.
I don't know if that.
But if you have any, yes, the existing, pardon me?
When you rezone, is that part negotiable?
No.
Leave that part of,
What do you want
of
to?
the animals in Montura as is?
That's, we're already saying that you're allowed to, what's existing, you're allowed to keep.
But no new.
But how do you know what I have?
It's going to be a database.
Is it going to be registered that I have 60 cows, let's say, in 3
Okay.
acres? Is that what
Well,
you're saying?
here's what we, first of all, we all I know is that we have, according to a quick review through the property appraiser, we have 15 bona fide agriculture properties there. Now, I'm not saying that's the exact number, but that's what I got this afternoon. As far as the folks that have several animals on their property, we're not going to go out there and count them, but we're going to, anybody that comes in hereafter would have to meet the limitations of them. And so I know there's probably some loopholes on how to on how this is going to work, but it's what we've
Mr. Chair,
recommended.
I got a number of questions, and I don't know if we'll be able to get to it all tonight. But can I ask, ma'am, you represent Central County Drainage District? Yes, ma'am. Is your intention here to make sure that I'm going to say the good actors, the people that are, in your opinion, that have a rural residential farm and have commercial activity going on their farm, you want to leave them unfeathered? You don't want unfettered? You don't want to hurt their
We
operation?
have no choice. They have to be grandfathered in.
Okay.
What we're looking at is not having more commercial or slaughterhouse,
Yes,
whatever
ma'am.
that falls under commercial.
Yes, ma'am.
We don't want
Mr.
anymore.
Chair. Okay, Mr. Chair, let me
But
ask this. Yes, ma'am.
The second part of that is not to disturb what we already have, at least at this point, with the animals that we have.
Yep.
And I don't know how you're going to register if I'm a new farmer, unless there is a form that I have to fill out telling you how many cows I have. Why would I go and get that form and fill it out when the others have not?
So that's
Those that are there already.
That's my
This
question.
is the first time I hear of that, so that's why I'm throwing that out, because how are you going to handle that?
Yeah, because it sounds great to be able to
On
monitor
paper.
it, but our actual method of how we implement said monitoring is my concern. And so now we get into you're not doing it over there,
Right.
and well, I just bought this from Miami. I came out here because I want my 1.25, or I bought all 5 of these, so now I'm at my number, and I want to be able to have my 63 head. They don't understand 63 head don't need to be on 5 acres, And so Ms. Imlich, I heard you say we have 15 bona fide. You didn't say farms. You said 15 bona fide agricultural operations.
Yes, which means they're technically commercial operations. So
Okay.
that we
And
would
Central
not,
County saying we want to leave them alone.
what they're saying is they don't want any more because that's where the fish farms come in.
Yep.
But
Okay.
I want to be clear, though, that the 15 is the count from the property appraiser of properties that have agricultural classification. There are more people probably doing agriculture that would be grandfathered beyond those 15.
Right.
Mark?
So
Well, whether they're doing agriculture, they got animals and they got plants, and that whether it's commercial or not, when our code allows agriculture, so we're not. commercial. And so we don't worry whether it's commercial or non-commercial, because commercial is more intense than non-commercial. So we're allowing commercial, so we allow non-commercial. And so the number, we don't get into that so far. But now we're going to have to grandfather in the commercial, non-commercial that is existing as of the code change date.
Mr. Chair?
Yes, sir.
So, Mark, you're saying that code currently allows for, is it irrelevant, rural residential farm? It has no bearing.
Well, our RRF is the only one that allows
For commercial, non-commercial?
agriculture,
Okay.
but I'm saying it allows commercial, so it also allows
Definitely
non-commercial.
allows non-commercial.
Yeah.
Well, and it also allows unlimited number of animals on a piece of property.
RRF does.
Correct. So
We're trying to-
if I'm hearing this correctly, they want to still have unlimited amount of animals permitted on their property, but not commercial agriculture.
That's exactly what, I believe we're trying to eliminate the commercial portion of this.
Yes,
But we're not looking at touching the second portion is what she said.
exactly.
Well, I
So-
think, Mr. Chair, we can't fix, but can I just say, we can't, I don't think we can, Margaret, just, now I'm going back to, you can't say that the county's doing their job or we're allowing for a non-public nuisance to occur if we allow for the rural residential farm to have unlimited number of animals. That's where the problem is going to exist. Because if I don't care if it's 5 acres or what the number is, we have to rein that in. We can't allow to get past those numbers. And I don't know what the threshold is on a cow to calf operation. You know, I don't know how you do that.
Right.
But I will tell you right now, I'm going to be shocked if within the next year or so we don't have another conversation about this in Pioneer, where there is an impressive feedlot on Henry Isles Boulevard, and none of those cows look bad. None of those calves look bad. But I can tell you where that's an intense use on Main Street Pioneer. You know, I'm not knocking that guy's use. I'm not saying anything bad about that farm. I'm just saying I can see where this could be a situation where you could have the same thing that doesn't exist today, but they have the rural residential farm tag on their dirt.
Not farm, RR.
RRF.
No, what?
Rural
residential. Well,
Pioneer is RR.
Okay, but in Montura they have RRF, and so that allows for them to have legally 100 head on 1.25 or 1.25 times 4, and that's just too much.
Couldn't feed them.
And look,
And does Central County and or Montura want to prevent that? Yes or no?
So I can't put the words in their mouth, but what I can tell you, just in the tenure that I've been there, and we've heard this conversation multiple times and I'll sit and listen to it at their board, and I've even heard it here at this board a couple of times as well. Number one, there are acceptable stocking rates that you can look at. That's through USDA, University of Florida, and other places that manages that. Now, having said that, and in the cases that I've been involved with, in Monterey and other places as well, we don't have the manpower nor the desire to go through and say, wait, they've got 3 horses in 1 acre. Hold on, wait. You know, I don't think that's the goal of anyone. But what is the goal is, no matter how many you have, if they're skin and bones, and they're coming up once a week, or if they live there, it doesn't matter. You know, you can tell they're malnourished or not cared for, whether it be a horse, a steer, a hog, a pig, or whatever it is. You know, then that becomes a humane issue that we need to get involved with. And that's the only time we can get involved with it. And almost every time that I'm aware of, it has been a neighbor or a bystander passing by and seen it and gotten involved. So I don't think that we as a board have the ability, or the county or the staff, to manpower that number or any other way than just make sure that it's, you know, humanely care of animals.
And Mr. Chair, I would just add that not only do we not have the manpower, Commissioner, we don't have the desire.
None. That's right.
Yeah,
That's
we're not out to regulate everyone's home.
That's right.
How would you monitor that, Margaret?
Well,
Somebody bought land, moved in.
right. Well, we wouldn't.
That's
We
what I
wouldn't
mean.
be able to.
Landowners
So
complaints, so, you know, when it's going on that way, you're going to hear.
Somebody
Right.
tell them.
That's right.
But we have adjusted the code so that it's clear that you have to have a residence on your property first before you can have your animals.
Well, that needs to be double checked. I can tell you that.
No, I'm telling you that just changed.
Yeah.
We just adjusted
just,
that.
okay.
So that you have to have a home on your property before you can have animals. So going
Have a
forward,
home or have a inhabited home?
well,
You see what I'm saying?
Well, how can I monitor that? If they
That's what
set
I'm
up a
saying.
home?
Well,
Have a home on
that's
the
what's happening,
property.
though. They have a home or said mobile home with the horse. They put enough feed and water out on Sunday, and they come back next Friday.
Well, it definitely doesn't have to be their homestead.
No.
That's right.
Well, that's
so
not.
that's a moot point.
Well, the problem you're gonna run into that too. What if said person buys 10 acres over there and they buy it for a pasture? They don't want a home there. They're just using that for a pasture.
No, you can't do that and put
Can't do
animals
it. You
on it.
must have a home first before you establish.
But there's not 10 acres, so these are 1.25.
There's some. There's a 10-acre fish farm.
Countywide, point being here,
Countywide is different.
there's
yeah.
folks that have 2 or 3 acres, yet they'll lease 10 acres over there to put their horses or cows in because they
Right.
don't have nowhere to house.
Right.
Yeah, but
So
that's
we're gonna tell
yeah.
people in
No,
Henry
no,
County
no,
now
no.
you can't do that no
No,
more.
no, no. This is
No, no.
specific.
Good,
This is
'cause I don't wanna be a
specific to
part
what
of
she's
that.
saying. Yeah, no, no, no.
No.
That's gonna get ugly
Right,
quick.
right. No, no, no. It's specific to this location.
Okay. Mr. Garcia.
Thank you, sir. For the record, my name is Nelson Garcia. I live in Montura. I'm not here to speak mostly to the farming or anything like that. I have a problem with the language in the proposition. When you rezone, that has broad changing effects from legal standpoints. One of them, and I read it, it said domestic animals. Can somebody please define domestic animals under rural residential instead of rural agricultural?
Mr. Chair, I'm so disappointed that I know so much about this because of said problems that we went through. But you got a list of domesticated animals, and we opened ours up.
Right.
This has been heard in court multiple times for Henry County.
So they're named. We got horses and cows, hogs, goats, sheep, poultry, llamas, and caged animals. And then there's a catch-all that says animals not listed above shall be subject to the restriction for the most similar animal listed above. So if
Okay,
there's
so in the wording where it says domestic animals, it includes goats, lambs, things of that
those
nature.
two you just named, it does.
Okay. Second question. By rezoning it, how does this affect the residents as far as property taxes are concerned?
Wouldn't affect it at all.
It has no effect.
Well, she's saying it doesn't, yeah.
That's not.
Okay. Just wanted some clarification on domestic because, heck, I've got 13 chickens, 2 sheep. You know, I eat the eggs, occasionally slaughter a chicken. Have probably the best organic chicken you can have. Last thing I want is somebody coming to my house telling me your bird's got to go, your lamb's got to go because some guy has a fish farm and we're after him. And the many pay the price for the few.
That's very
I
understandable.
just want to make sure that we move there because we want to live a more
Rural lifestyle.
rural lifestyle. I'm from Miami, so
You left
believe
the
me,
concrete jungle.
I lived in the concrete jungle, and I like it out there. You know, you hear the occasional shotgun blast at night, but hey, you know, it comes with the territory. You know, you live in the city, you hear a shotgun blast, 50,000 people are swarming. Over there, it's normal. You get used to it after a while, you know. But I just want to make sure that any rezoning that's being proposed doesn't affect a person like me, a homeowner. You know, if I have 2 lambs right now, let's say they have babies and I wind up with 5 or 6 and I want to slaughter one, you know, that this does not impact me as a resident and it does not impact our tax bracket. Because I do know that zoning changes also affect, I believe it's called millage rates or mileage rates. Forgive my, but that it doesn't affect our taxes as far as what it cost us because of a zoning change.
Okay.
Just to be clear on something he said about his animal, that the RR animal types that is rattled off, there is a head count specified in our code.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure he's out of compliance. We need to send code enforcement.
But
He said 13 chickens. He has to have like 11.
he's an RRF, so there is no head count right now. So the existing ones are going to be grandfathered in Montura because there is no head count. But for the new folks who don't have any animals at the time of the code change, they will be subject to the head count.
What would the head count be?
Well, it's varied.
Mr. Chair, I want to interject because I will say this. One of the most impressive jobs that code enforcement has done, in my opinion, is we have the letter of the law,
Uh-huh.
and it says, 2 horses, 1 whatever. And I have yet in my entire tenure as a commissioner to have a constituent call me up and say, your jerk of a code enforcement officer came out here and I have 3 horses and, everybody looks good, but they're telling me I'm out of compliance. So I'm not trying to promote us being out of compliance, but I would say that's the definition of Hendry County getting it right, because they're going to the rule of it and what it's intended to do. And what it's intended to do is just not have it overwhelming on a 1.25 or a 2.25.
No,
or 2.5.
I can understand that clearly.
But he can read you those numbers
50,
specifically.
50, 100 animals on 1.25 acres, it's outrageous.
Yeah.
I agree 100%. But I just want to make sure that it's, you go to my house, it looks like a golf course with mango trees and chickens and 2 little lambs running around. But
I've never seen a
wanna
golf
make
course
sure-
like that.
Huh?
I've never seen a golf course like that.
Oh, you have no idea how hard I've worked on it. Chickens are weed eaters and lambs keep the lawn trimmed real beautifully, very nicely. But I just want to make sure that it doesn't impact our ability. If I want to have, 6, then maybe slaughter 1, have it for myself, whatever. That these zoning changes don't affect those things, and that it doesn't make our property taxes skyrocket, because a lot of people will wind up homeless.
Good points, Mr. Garcia.
Mr. Garcia, we
Good point.
appreciate you speaking. Juana, is your last name Martin? Mata. Okay. Don't look at me like that.
Good evening. Thank you for letting me. My name's Juan Mata Jr. I live at 440 South Nogales Street in Montour Ranch, and I'm also a board member. I sit on seat number 5. When we voted to bring this to the Hendry County, it was because of the issues with fish farms. We have 6 fish farms. Many of them, to everybody's attention, has been out of compliance. Some of them have been put in jail because of illegal discharging and so many other things. So the community and the residents around them have come to us and say, hey, and we even have videos where they're illegal discharging into our canal system that goes into our reservoir, which goes down the L1 and L whatever canal, which goes into the Everglades. And everybody's trying to restore the Everglades. So that was the reason that we promoted to bring this to the board, to help us to resolve this issue or try to fix it. It's not about domestic animals and I have horses, I have chickens, I have hogs and all that stuff. We do 4-H as well with our kids. Nobody's trying to stop that. We just know that we need a lot of help with zoning out there so we can prevent these practices. I've been in the water and wastewater business for 28 years. I understand permits, discharges, but we have to understand, as well as our code enforcement here, we're overwhelmed. So for a person to come and to actually do a visit and check to see if they're in compliance 365 days of the week, that's not going to happen. All right, so that's why a lot of our residents do a lot of policing on their own. They see the discharges, they call somebody in, they come out, sure enough, guess what? It's happening. Their effluent is going into our system. So that's what we want to try to prevent. I'm not against business, I'm for business. I have my own business as well. But I want them to properly dispose of the water so it doesn't get into people's drinking water, because once you affect the drinking water, it's not coming out. You have to do a lot of mediation to remove those contaminants. So that's all what we're trying to do there. Thank you for your time. Thanks for listening.
Thank you, Mr. Mata. Chris, self?
Hello, my name is Chris Self. I'm a resident of Monterey. I've been there 34 years, and we own a local business too. One of my questions is, if we're grandfathered in, let's say we have 20 chickens, and we decide we want to have 50. Would they limit us, or would we be able to grow a little more, or how would that work out?
Are you RRF?
Yes.
You can have as many chickens as you'd like.
If you change the zoning to RR.
Change it, yeah.
Yeah, I guess. Maybe.
Yes, ma'am.
It's apparent based on the discussion we're having tonight that maybe we just take a step back and just focus on the commercial ag and leave the unlimited farm animals, but just take out and leave it RRF. Mark, I think we could do this and just take out the commercial ag in the list of uses in the table 53, 1 or 2, and the in the special permit ability, if we were to take that out, so that would eliminate the ability to do commercial agriculture, i.e. fish farms, pig farms, like standalone commercial ag in the middle of residential. And so that's my thought on.
And I like that because, again, and I echo, and to address Mr. Self, I think that we've said it here all along tonight. It is not our intentions to limit the number, to keep you from going to 50 chickens if that's what you want. Our only intentions is to make sure that, number one, the animals are being treated humanely and cared for and eating and healthy, and the neighbors not being adversely affected on the other side of the fence.
Right.
I think that's only fair and what any of us would want or expect.
Right.
I like to touch on that subject
But-
about the. I'm sorry, go ahead.
But the animal care and the impacts to adjacent properties is what we've had issues on, but it's really hard for us to address it because it's a nuisance. It's, you know, how well do you keep your animals, and you know, and how much do you impact your adjacent properties or your neighbors with any runoff of animal, you know, excrements and whatever that goes on somebody's beautiful, you know, Floritown, you know, yard. I mean, I'm using extremes, but those are things that have come to us.
And it's a subjective thing as well. I mean,
Yes.
if you buy that property next to it and you've lived in Weston your whole life or Wellington,
Right.
you're not going to be, you know, people get out and eat at Beef O'Brady's and they lose their mind. They're like, what does that smell? I'm like, that's home, baby.
Yeah.
You know, so,
Right.
you know.
But anyway, those are hard things. That's not something that's easy for us to address. So I'll just back up and say that's why we're talking tonight, is to get the input, to understand, you know, exactly what we should be looking at and shouldn't be. You know, we came up with something that, you know, was a starting point. And I appreciate all the input, and I realize you all have some more to talk about, but I'm going to just make that suggestion that might be an option, what I said a little bit ago.
And I like that option.
Mark?
I think everyone does.
What about this? You know, since we're not adopting an ordinance tonight, you're just giving us authority to proceed with the public hearing process for the ordinance amendment process. So instead of trying to decide exactly what we're going to do, you can just say, proceed with ordinance amendments, including rezonings that would affect the operation of commercial agricultural activities within Montura. Then we'll be having, she's going to go to their board and speak. We're going to have an LPA meeting. And we're going to have 2 public hearings before this board because the zoning change requires 2 public hearings. So there'll be multiple chances, so we'll be able to hash out all of these details.
Mr. Chair,
that's a good point.
If I could also add to that, I mean, Jennifer, Montura's been in existence for a little while now. And this problem hasn't started just overnight. And to say it's a problem to some, it may not be. You know, some people say, hey, I'm good with this. I think to Mr. Garcia's point is that's why people move to the areas that they move to. They understand it moving in a lot of times. Jennifer, what I would ask you to do is, just like y'all went through that process in Wheeler Estates, I think this needs to be, you know, is that allowed to be molded into that, Jennifer? And that's part of that discussion, and we kind of hit the pause button?
We applied for a DEO grant for a study in Montura, and we were denied. And so that's one of your FYI items on the board meeting. But I don't know, Margaret, if you were looking at potentially moving forward with some...
Right.
Within our budget.
It was $30K to do it in Wheeler Estates, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, but the proposal for Montura is 40.
It was 40?
Yes.
Guys, I'm sorry. That's $40,000 of really well spent.
Very well spent.
And Miss Emily, Miss Davis, if y'all are saying we have it, I think that's another one that we
Well,
need. There is no plan.
We don't have it in my budget yet. Wink, wink.
Gotcha.
Sure. This is
Get it from Shane?
I'm teasing. We do.
This is Sheriff Imlage up here.
Yeah.
I think that that's something, you know, I would be very receptive to that. And if that's something that unless y'all are completely against us hitting the pause button, you know.
Well, the reason why we're here tonight is because we got the request from the Central County
And I've heard
to
them
take
loud and
care
clear.
of this.
Yes, ma'am.
Something sooner than later, because we were talking about the land use study. And yes, we are recommending to go further or to go ahead with it without the grant. We are also going to ask Central County if they would participate in helping pay for it as well, because it's a dual benefit. I haven't heard anything back from them at this point because it's just was, thrown into an email somewhere. But we'll talk about that. So with or without the situation, I think that we should go forward with the land use study. But I also am waiting for direction on whether we want to go ahead and then make this code change sooner than later, because that land use study isn't going to be done until next summer.
It'll be a while, and I hate to hit the pause button on it that long.
I don't want to hit it that long. Yeah, you're right. I didn't know. Yeah.
These constituents have come to us with a valid concern. I believe that we have morphed it into a point where I believe it brings a lot of ease and comfort to everyone and all concerns. There still has to be further conversation and further hearings. Gives everyone plenty of chance from both communities to come and discuss it. So I think we should proceed forward with exactly the way.
Agreed.
Mr. Swindler, are you making that in the form of a motion?
I move.
Second.
I got a motion by Commissioner Swindle, second by Commissioner Byrd. Mr. Bosley, did you want to speak to this? Or is it a different topic, or is this one?
This is a topic that's ongoing.
Okay.
Okay. Fred Bosley for the record. This cattle operation that Mr. Turner was talking about probably got at least 200 cattle. But I understand it could be a USDA approved deal, whatever. But the cattle was just brought out there and they're being fed well. They look good. But the thing is, there ought to be some type of a retention area to keep the water on their property. And there's places that's dug out under the fence, and that wastewater is into the ditch going up and down Henry Isles Boulevard. They cut at least 3 places. And just like the gentleman talked about there from the water district, that you need to keep the waste in on your own property. And whenever it dries up, you got the odor from, and when it's wet, that water is running north and south. The other day I looked and it was going north. So that water is going someplace. I do know that the health department's been notified, but I don't know that nothing has happened as far as taking the cattle off and making some type of a retention area.
Okay. Thank you, Mr. Bosley. Okay, we do have a motion and a second. Is there any further discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Thank y'all for coming tonight. We appreciate you taking the time to be here tonight to address this. Thank y'all very much.
Mr. Martin, with that motion, will you still do the survey? Will you still do the survey on Montour?
What survey?
The land, yes.
We're talking about moving forward.
I know.
We're just moving forward.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
And we did not. I don't think we approved to do that. Y'all are going to look at that, bring it back, and say we got X, Y, and Z available. We're going to move forward with that land use study.
Oh, sure.
Yeah. Okay.
Okay, so that brings us to B under staff reports. Mr. Lapp.
Yes, Mr. Chairman, members of the board, this is related to the item that Ms. Davis presented about the privatization application for the Everglades Airport privatization. What you're being asked to consider on this item is the actual purchase and sale agreement. You've seen it many times previously, but we've had some revisions that are detailed in my staff report, so we're asking you to approve the latest version of that and authorize the chairman to sign the letter that was included in the packet, which basically says that you, once this is all approved by the agencies, that you will sign the purchase and sale agreement.
I move option 1.
I second it.
Motion by Commissioner Swindle, second by Commissioner Byrd. Is there any further discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Thank you.
The next item was misplaced by me on the agenda. That's a fairly routine matter. It's a listing agreement for the sale of surplus property. It should have been on consent. I put it in the wrong place, but.
Motion by Commissioner Harris, second by Commissioner Byrd. Any further discussion on that one? All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Is there anyone in the public has any other comments about anything else tonight? Not you. Ms. Butler, come on.
Okay, I'm Barbara Butler, clerk of court. Back when you first had the thing about the insurance, your commission here all voted that the commission would take on the $400 and some thousand, and they would pay it out of ad valorem taxes.
She changed her mind.
I'm asking that since it's not going to be that much, could we please, I know you're talking about a COLA raise this year, but for the hourly employees, just not the contract people, I know you give the contract people the same that you gave the hourly and the COLA, but give the hourly employees more than a 3% raise. They deserve it. They're behind the 8 ball.
Mr. Chair.
Yes, sir.
Here's what I'd like to promise you, Ms. Butler. I want to ask our county administrator tonight, if the board will agree to this, to look at what the fiscal impact of that would be. I do want to see a study performed of knowing how many of our employees do we have making what those hourly rates are. I don't need to see any names, but I do want to see what the total number of our employees are, what they're making, and I'm not saying just board. I mean yours, Ms. Butler, the property appraisers, everybody. I think that Ms. Butler, you've seen me so many times sit up here and say we've got to lower the millage. We've got to lower the millage. However, now, and I'm not getting to be a spendthrift person, but I can't believe we're going on year 3 now of values actually increasing. And so I think it is time now for so many people that have held the rope for so long for us to look at it from a board's perspective of what does that look like from a fiscal impact? And if it's a 5% to X number of people, or if it's 6% and it's a one-time bonus and that impact is $500,000 or it's $300,000 or if it's 150, and then if it's not just a one-time bonus, it's actually getting a number of people to $12 or $13 or $14 an hour versus them having at $11 an hour. I mean, I don't know what those numbers are. And I can tell you this much, Ms. Butler, when I first got elected, I was savvy on that. I had studied that to the nth degree, and I knew exactly how many people were making per dollar per hour from top to bottom. And I have gotten lackadaisical in that because the reality is, Ms. Butler, you know better than I, we didn't have any money. We just had to cut everywhere. We're not in that situation now. So I would just make a promise to you that I think I'm looking forward to the county administrator telling us this is what the bottom line number is going to be. And if y'all want to do more, it's going to be this percentage, and or that total number is what that percentage is going to look like. So I'm saying I'm committed to doing something, and I hear you loud and clear. That's just me, and I don't want to know what my colleagues think.
Well, my thing is I've been here 19 years, and I watched for 7 or 8 years. They didn't get a raise at all.
Nothing.
So nothing. They didn't get a COLA raise. They didn't get nothing. And so they're behind the 8 ball. You say a 3% COLA, okay, that's 21%. And you gave them a 3%, the last year, 2 years,
Ms. Butler, can you said 3% equals 21%?
No, I didn't say that. I said if you'd take 3% every year.
Oh, okay.
For the 7 or 8
yes,
years.
Ma'am. Yes, ma'am. I got you.
But they didn't get a raise.
I understand.
And
yes,
then you gave them like 6%, but they're still behind the 8 ball 15%.
Yes, ma'am.
And this is what keeps this county going, is our workers.
Yes, ma'am. And what I would say to that, Ms. Butler, is just looking at it from a private perspective, and that's the only glasses I can look through it. I know for a fact there were a ton of companies that not only did they not give any of their employees anything, but they had to fire a lot of human beings.
So did we.
And we did. We had to let it. And so I don't think you and I are arguing about this. But what I am respectfully requesting is to let us look at the numbers and let's try to crack that nut and get them back to where get all of our people back to where baseline needs to be.
Okay, that's all I'm asking. I just want you to look at the hourly employees that work for this county and boost them up.
Ms. Butler, will you work with our county administrator to get that report to us to let us know how many people we have at and what those numbers are, and let's look at that because
not a problem, and I'm sure the other constitutional officers will too.
Good. Commissioner, and I'd like to add, and I've said this many times in multiple different formats and forms, we can't afford to pay our employees what they're worth, but we do need to do a better job, and we're coming into an era where we can. So I'm absolutely committed to make sure we do what we can for them as well.
Anyway, the 7 and 8 years, nobody that I know got a raise anywhere.
No, they didn't.
Yeah, nothing.
And
right.
nobody Like in Carson's business, nobody got a raise.
We had to
And,
just take care of our best and brightest and pray
people,
for the best.
People lost their job and everything. So it's going to be hard to make up 7 or 8 years just by what we saved on insurance.
That's right.
No, I'm not talking about just what you saved on insurance, but you'll have a little bit this year because of the values going up, and what we're saving on insurance.
But-
So let's treat the employees like they should be treated. Is what I'm saying.
We do that at the workshop.
Bring it back at budget workshop.
Yes, it has to be sooner rather than later. Y'all put some numbers together because that's soon.
No, sir, they're like me. They're set. I don't get one either.
Yeah.
Especially for, I'm sorry.
No, you're right.
Those that held on for that amount of time that did not get the increase, and they're still with us. That count for something. That count for something. So.
It does.
Mitchell was there.
I was in that mess.
Yes, you were.
That was part of the time we was telling us to be glad you have a job. And I got
Yeah.
sick of hearing that too. So, but no, again, every year I push for the employees to get raises. And originally when I come to work for Hendry County, again, I've said this many times. It was the pay wasn't great, but the benefits were good. Insurance was amazing. Benefits was good. We come to a place where insurance, benefits, everything went down the tube. But I believe we're on the right road, and I agree with you guys. You'll never hear me say that we don't need to do a study on employees. We have done it several times, and several times the number come back, and we said we just can't do it right now because I was on the other side of this doing those studies, and when it would come back, we'd say this is what X amount of employees are making here, and we looked at it, but we just couldn't do it at the time. But I believe we are getting back to a time, and the bottom line is, I said a couple meetings back, without them, they don't need us.
Right.
Pretty simple. The grass don't get cut, the buildings don't get maintained. So
It's so true.
anything we can do for the employees, I'm behind that 100%. I might need a job one day.
Make it before October 31st.
Okay. So it's going to bring us to business by district. Commissioner Swindle.
Ms. Davis, forgive me. I got to ask you again. I made notes and I had it all beautifully laid out, and I left it on my desk. The name one more time.
Oh, the PACE-based initiative group from
Okay.
FEMA.
So it's place-based initiative group. Okay, I'm sure I'll ask you again before this conversation is complete, but I'll do my best. So it's hard to find a silver lining in some clouds, isn't it? And sometimes we scratch our heads and pick the pieces up, keep going. But after Hurricane Irma, and it was really hard for a long time to find a silver lining in that crazy cloud. But I know that our staff worked diligently. FEMA picked Hendry County to be one of only a couple that received a little bit of extra attention because of multiple things that are intrinsic about our community. And that place-based initiative group, they were here. They were in the EDC building for 2 months, 3 months?
6 months.
6 months, 6 months. Y'all remember they interviewed, I think they interviewed us all. They took data, they come and they interviewed and took pictures and were on site and all over the place. And the whole time, we were, I think, still living in the edge of that 7 or 8 years worth of, not receiving a dime. We were, this is, not a raise, and everything was sort of flat. And so it was really starting to build on the whole county. Well, I would like to report that as a result of that place-based initiative, they had a meeting in, I believe it was mid-January, early February of the following year after Irma. And when they did that, they brought in an enormous amount of other government entities. DEO, USDA, and every acronym you can think of was there. And out of that, I met a gentleman named Mike Bathello. And Mike Bathello is a USDA representative for certain regions of Florida. And sometimes you can't help it. I try to do it in as polite a way as I can, but I might even throw him a sucker down and said, this is all great, but we need the help. I get what you have there. And last year, as a result, and this is where my hats start crossing over a little bit, we received $196,000 to renovate our welding facility for teaching welding skills. And I'm pleased to announce that
That was 2017, 2018.
That is correct. 12 months ago now. Yep. That's right. And so I'm pleased to announce that project is nearing completion within under a 30-day period. We should be completely finished and have in the state of Florida, one of the finest state-of-the-art training welding facilities here in Clewiston. Very, very proud of that. The same group, as they were coming over and keeping up with the fidelity of the project, they said, look, we really want to continue helping. We appreciate what's going on. What else can we do? And so I said, just so happens we have another request. And a week and a half ago, out of the same group and still carrying on from that place-based initiative group that was here, and the USDA, I got it. I ain't going to forget it no more. We received $436,000 grant to do an HVAC and electrician program at Clewiston High School. And so we're going to be training high school students and adults in HVAC, technician, repair, installation, as well as electrician. And the local community helped. They got behind the grant. They helped with the data. They helped write letters of support. And I'm eternally grateful for that. But that will be this year's addition to what we're doing with regards to workforce development. I try to be the eternal optimistic cheerleader for Hendry County.
Yeah, you drive me nuts doing that.
I know, but you know what? Somebody's got to do it. We can't, and so as I do that, this is so great to finally see some wins. And so we've got some wins to put under our belt. We've got some wins legislatively, and it feels so good that finally it seems like something's going our way and we're not the old poor us, So I'm super excited about that. And now hopefully over the next 45 days we can add this Everglades International Airport under our belt of things that has been a win for us. And our community hopefully will realize the benefits way sooner rather than later in what the training facilities that we are getting and the new facilities that's going to be coming with regards to the airport and the footprint that's going to leave in this county. I think that I feel, it's going to change, and it's going to change in a way that hopefully will be put us in a position where we can do even better things for our employees, and put us in a position where as a county we're able to manage some things that's a little bit larger than what we've had in the past with regards to poor old us and small rural county. So I'm very proud of that. I'm proud of where we've done, and it's been a pleasure. So I'm raw.
Commissioner Swindle, what was the number for the welding facility?
$436,000. No, I'm sorry, $196 on the welding facility.
So
Yep.
do you have a place to put both of those?
Yes. So the welding facility was existing. It was a renovation. About 4 years ago, 3.5 years ago, the school district invested some of their money and built a large skills trade building on Clewiston High School campus. Well, that's kind of as far as they went with it. They kind of built it and was like, all right, go ahead. And so we have this large empty building. The building is built. They're actually in the building operational now.
Is that the big metal building on the backside?
That is correct.
Base?
Yes,
Okay.
exactly where it is. So this is the equipment and the training modules, the curriculum, the industry certification alignment. Everything is going to be a turnkey operation. And so we're super excited.
What do you do about teachers and stuff like that?
Yeah. The maintenance department's a little bit angry with me about that. So Cecil Harris, some of you know, they've had an AC business here in Clewiston for his dad. Mac was an AC guy for he fixed God's AC. That's how long he's been here.
That was one of the best camps in the southern section of Hendry County.
That's right. That's exactly right. And so he was working for maintenance and AC and that electrician piece and carpentry, come to find out, was actually in his skill set and with some certifications as an individual. So he is our instructor.
How soon will that take place?
So they're already doing it on minor scale today as we speak. And if all goes well, hopefully by December we'll have the equipment in place, teacher trained and students using it. Worst case scenario, it'll be the rest of the school year getting ready in place up to par and
Is
operational.
it going to be after school or night?
Both. So it's going to be during school for secondary students and evening time for adults.
So they can travel from other places?
Absolutely. We absolutely anticipate that.
That's a first for our county in the history of the county that I know of. We've never had a situation where you can bring an adult in, or you can be a young adult that's here and go get training at night as it's associated with blue collar trades.
That's right. Up until the last.
Do y'all know of anything?
Up until the last 3 years. So we're doing it currently with the industrial mechanics, with the welding, with the certified nursing assistant. And so we have and when we add this to our repertoire, it's going to be a fairly robust for a small rural Hendry County. It's going to be a pretty robust offering.
Commissioner Swindle, I think you need to tell more people about that. Yeah.
Actually, the Bell had quite a few students come over for the welding class. And so it was a good situation.
Yep.
Think about this, you all. Think about this. In the last 3 years, but I don't think it's more than 4. So in just the last 2 years now, you're talking about $632,000 in hard currency that's been invested in.
That's right.
In this area. Mayor Gardner, along with Clewiston High School staff and superintendent, FSW. I mean, I sat with her. I don't know how many meetings I sat with her and the school board member Stephanie Busen, and listened to them be told from FSW why you could not have dual enrollment occurring. And every time they would say something, they would give Mayor Gardner an excuse of why they couldn't have it, and she would come back in less than 30 days every time and have that box checked off.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, you need humans that have a master's degree. Here's a list. You need 12 students. Okay, here's 32. You need, I mean, just name it. You need square footage. Okay, here's 3 classrooms. I mean, she just routinely just checked off the reasons why. And it's I'm so happy to know that now, you know, if you would have went to some school board meetings, and you have been, I'm sure, where Mr. Roquette and Ms. Larian and what they've done, and Mr. Sanchez and what they've done with that FSW and the cohort, the Collegiate Academy. I mean, you know, Quality Electric hired the salutatorian of CHS this year, and then interviewed 3 other kids that we're thinking about hiring they just graduated from Clemson High School. They have their associate's degree. They did it simultaneously while at CHS. And that was happening when you were in school. It was happening when I was in school, Ms. Bird. But then we had a gap of about 15, 20 years where that didn't occur. And I don't think it's any one person's fault. It was just, you know, I remember Commissioner Davis just basically yelling at me. He's like, boy, you need to run for a school board. You keep bringing up all these educational things. Mm-hmm. And just to see the fire that you possess with regards to adult school education, and now it's rolling into this, which is going to be during our secondary, during regular business hours, so to speak. This is a different conversation. This is trying to get us prepared for the future.
So we know that our education system helps drives our economy, our community, and the prosperity that we all enjoy and love and aspire to be. So now think about what you just said with regards to Hendry County schools. We're offering Collegiate Academy where students are graduating with an AA or dual enrollment into an adult where they can be a certified welder, certified electrician, certified HVAC technician. That's pretty robust. And one of the big areas that we're going to keep our eye on is as the airport develops, we know that there are going to be needs. We don't know what those needs are yet. And so that's why I'm trying to stay as close to that conversation as we are to make sure that we provide that training as well in real time.
Mr. Swindle, I'm just telling you, get ready. Well, I don't know what the day is. What is it? August something, 2019, 6:50. I think this is all being publicly noted. I'm going to hammer on you if you're fortunate enough to get into your next role that you're seeking as it relates to the correlation of what you just said, education prowess or lack thereof, and economic success. And so, you know, I wish I could talk to you a lot more times as it relates to this privately, but we just have to shy away from that conversation because there's just too much potential for us to potentially vote on something that creates a conflict. But I'm going to tell you, I'm going to be one of your biggest proponents, one of your biggest antagonists as it applies to looking at the data and letting our educational curriculum be driven around that. And I think, you know, when I look at what FSW has told me and when I look at some of the different people that I've talked with on other collegiate campuses and then performed my own little assessment and looking at DOE numbers, and you look at how many of our students graduate from our K-12 system and they have to go back and they have to take the remedial classes and how much that costs us just from a financial burden. People say, well, man, you can't say that. Well, you know, we have an 87% graduation percentage, and so those kids are going. And listen, this isn't a knock. This is not a knock on any public school educators. This is just saying we need to look at those data points. We need to engage that conversation, and we need to have it a community-wide conversation. I had a good conversation. I probably offended him a little bit, but I talked to Mr. Roberto Sanchez about putting a net around one community specifically and looking at that community and saying, how can we break it down demographically? How can we break it down on performance level? How many level 1 readers do we have? How many level 5 readers do we have? And everything in between. And then let's just throw resources at that. And it's not any different than asking code enforcement, stop screwing with Hooker's Point. Stop worrying about Pioneer. Stop worrying about Uptown. And just go to Harlem and let's put all of our energy into that and get it to where it's where we feel good about it. And then let's move to the next one. Mm-hmm. You know, and you know, that's just a one concept of an approach. But I'm excited. $632,000, Commissioner Swindle. That's awesome. Congratulations.
Didn't they get a chunk of money for reading? I think they got a bunch of money for the reading program too.
I'm not sure.
I think they got $400,000 for it too.
Well, I'll tell you, I sat through the school board meeting not too long ago over in LaBelle when Ms. Kleiner gave that presentation and
school grades.
Yeah, you know, there were some good trends in some areas. There were some scary trends in others. And I'm excited to see what resources the school board devotes towards other areas and how they're gonna tackle that animal.
See, Kevin, are y'all still pulling kids out for a training program for deputies? High school kids to train? You still doing that program? Is it doing well?
I spoke at their banquet earlier this year. It was very nice. Very great group.
How many kids?
Oh, there was 15, 18 kids in there, I believe, off the top of my head. That's close, right? 25?
That's good.
Yeah.
Very good. Ms. Bird?
Everything's fine. I'm enjoying. We had a conversation yesterday at the airport. So the area you're tapping in is what need to be tapped into. So there's a lot of classes available. We just trying to get them to feed into them, and get themselves together for what's to come, planning for the future. And it's going to take us to go out of our comfort zone to make sure that happens. Going to the churches and going to the communities to make sure that happens. Because the number of jobs that's potentially to come in, we have to be ready for them. That's why it's so important about the infrastructure. I mean, we're not there, but we need to get there. We need to find a way to get there. So.
Mr. Harris?
Did we get everything from the state, Chief, or we didn't get the force main, did we?
So we got $1 million for the force main, and so we need 3 more. We are applying by the end of this month. There's no match, therefore it doesn't come to you, but I wanted to take this opportunity to give you an update for a DEO grant for $3 million, 0 match. We are applying for that. There's also a 50/50 EDA grant that we are in queue to apply for if that doesn't come through. And then obviously we're going to be talking about legislative appropriations next month before you if we need to ask additional money for that. We've already talked to our lobbyists about that. In addition to that, just to kind of springboard of what Commissioner Swindle said is that with Irma, I know it's been a while, but there's $85 million that the governor just released, if you will, for repairs for Irma. 0 match. Has to be, it was a week and a half ago, and it has to be done by August 23rd.
The appropriation has to be given?
No, the
or-
grant. The grant
Application
asked.
has to be, and so it's a little
That's cool. Just don't sleep.
ridiculous. And so it has to be shovel ready, and it has to be shovel ready, and it has to have a certain public. It's not a public meeting before you all, but it's a community action group that has to meet and say yes, that's what we're going to do. So we met internally, and we feel that the Four Corners project is something that's ready to go. The place-based initiative group basically wrote that for us when they were here. Because it's such a quick turnaround, and so we were going to request, we're looking at requesting for that $4 million for Four Corners. The next pot of money is going to be $633 million, and then the next pot of money after that is going to be a little over $700 million. We, Hendry County, are in the 80% group of counties. That 80% of those dollars, the 633 and the 700 million, has to go to these certain counties, and we are one of those. And so we are positioned very well to receive quite a bit of money. There has to be a nexus to Irma. That place-based group helped us when they were here, even though they've been gone a while, but that's why they were here, getting us ready for this point in time. And we have quite a few things ready to go. Our LMS group is our local mitigation strategy group. Countywide has met and has identified priority projects. It's not just for the county, it'll be for the school board. It'll be for other agencies within Hendry County, non-for-profit and other agencies like 298 districts, et cetera. And so that they haven't released those funds yet, but that we are told that's going to be the next pot of money after this $85 million.
The 633?
The 633.
But no idea what the timeline is going to be with that application process.
And so we are told that we're going to have a lot more time to apply for that there's going to be a large amount of time to apply for both of those pots of money. A couple meetings ago, we had you all approve contract or approve for us to go out to RFP for a grant consultant, basically, and that's why, because we're just getting ourselves ready. They would help us because it's going to be more than what we can handle internally, and then their fees would be paid off of administrative fees, if we were awarded, and so it's no dollars out of our coffers, if you will. And so just to kind of let you know, that's what we're gearing up for.
I know your colleague doesn't exist in Glades County today, but they would probably be on board with it. But what about Charlotte and Lee? Have you talked to Desjardins, and are they on board with the Four Corners? Because that's where we got internal kickback one time.
Well, that Four Corners, is approaching 30 to 35 years.
I understand, but what?
And it'll benefit Lee County more than anybody.
Yes, sir, I understand that. But the point I'm making is
They
that
should be on board.
I'll let Shane.
they were not.
I'll let Shane answer
Well, Lee-
that. It
Lee-
is a 30-year project.
It's been going on long enough. They need to either do it or just scratch it.
Well, we don't have, Shane Parker for the record, Henry County Engineer. We don't have, to my knowledge, buy-in from Charlotte and Lee, but I know Frank Mann was pushing it with one of the English brothers, and we were having regular meetings for a while, and Frank Mann was
How long ago was that, Shane?
probably about a year ago, and it died off.
I'm asking you all to get that in writing.
Okay.
Because I'm telling you all, there's been other conversations. I don't know how I can say it any more directly. There's been other conversations where it was expressed to me in certain offices, don't ask about this. We need to just let this sleeping dog lie. Yeah. And I said exactly what you told me many times in these chambers and in LaBelle, which is Lee County is going to be the biggest beneficiary.
They are.
And they said, we understand, but we're trying to push. Obviously, a little less than $1 billion is going to be spent on Speed 43, so maybe that's getting pushed. This one has a little bit more precedent, so maybe there'll be receptiveness.
As a side note, I had a conversation yesterday with Kyle Grandusky, who represents they call themselves the County Line Drainage District. They're in Lee County, abutting up. They called asking for a deviation in the water pumpage because they gave us an easement and we gave them certain rights. And I said, well, I don't have a problem with it, but it'd sure be nice if you'd sign a letter of support because we've never gotten one. They always say yes, they never follow through.
Well, hammer on them, Shane.
And in doing so, he says, well, we'll talk, but he goes, one of the major landowners, Mr. Beal, is looking at doing water farming on his property within the County Line Drainage District where he has grows and taking water from Four Corners, but he goes, we would like to pull it from the county line ditch, which would be a restoration of historic flows. And he goes, with your project, it would work out good. With the county line ditch being widened for holding back with the two weir structures, he could pump into theirs. So it may be a win-win for everybody. So I'm hoping we'll get a letter of support from county line.
Okay, we'll get it in writing.
Okay, so let's just say, devil's advocate, they award number one. What's number two?
Do we have a number two?
A list, surely there's a
We're
list.
only allowed one application
On this
for this certain 85 million.
Okay, so 633 is coming up tomorrow. What's number two?
If we can tie the force main into it, we have hardening of our public.
Irma?
Yeah, well, water quality and so forth. There might be some ways to do that. We have hardening of our public facilities.
That's what I immediately go to. Clewiston Middle School, our lack of having a special needs shelter during the hurricane, and our inability to have proper power, and the fact that we were all sitting here hashing out how are we going to get these generators up and running. And so to me, I mean, you start talking about $500,000 as it relates to the actual hard cost of acquiring generators. Now you throw another, 3/4 or something in there on implementing those. And now you get back to Commissioner Wills where you have a designated employee that's, they go and they read a computer printout or it gets sent to them on what that ATS is doing. But I think we pull ourselves into the 21st century now. We don't send Alan whenever the storm gets up to Category 2 to make sure you go out and fire up the old generator.
Or run around pump stations.
Hardening is one of our main
City of LaBelle they didn't get their requests.
And then I would also go, Mr. Chair, looking at County Road 835, Shane. I mean, we had some scary situations during that hurricane. I'd love to, have that debate with you if you don't think. But I mean, you get down there towards the bottom half, just north of Deer Fence Canal, and that road was covered completely, and then where it makes the turn and dumps into 846, or not 846, but 833 and 835 match up. There were some significant washouts that occurred, and I'm sure you got other examples of that, and so how we could actually mitigate that. But I think I'm just I didn't know that this was a conversation that they had with the local mitigation strategy group with the faith-based operation.
See, it's a total thing. Yeah.
So.
We do have a list. I'll send you all just for information. We have an updated list just within the last probably 30, 45 days and there's a committee and they rank them in priority of what's their important, most important projects by category. So I'll send that to you all and it'll give you a better understanding of everything that we'll be looking to apply for.
I really believe the hardening of our buildings, to me, would be on the top of the list, period.
Should be.
I mean, every year we got to move our paramedics into whatever we can put together for them. Our sheriff's department had to go in the courthouse last year. To me, I think our number one priority should be the hardening of our buildings. So, I don't, whatever list we want to put together, but the fact is we're robbing Peter to pay Paul.
Yep.
And we moved them into the health department come apart, moved them out of the health department into the EDC building. In the EDC building, the generator didn't work, so they were out of power there. Again, I've been the one running around them storms too. We need to do better. Our employees that we ask to go out and work in these storms, you're thrown just wherever you can get. That's not a good deal. So you're sitting on the side of a generator in a Cat 3 storm blowing off the side of it because it didn't run at the middle school in LaBelle, or you're driving to Clewiston in the middle of the storm because the generator didn't power up. So to me, priority would be let's get it taken care of, the safety. That's what I would think. The Four Corners, I'll be honest, I've heard that for so long. I'm to the point where I really don't want to hear Four Corners. I want to hear what are we going to do for our people that are here to keep them safe.
This is just for this window.
I get it.
Because we don't have plans. We would not be able to meet the deadline
But we need to be moving on that.
for the public safety hardening for the August 23rd deadline.
No,
That's the only reason why we picked Four Corners for this one. The next one would be the hardening plus all the other.
I think we should be shovel ready on that.
Right.
Ready to roll. When they come in and say, what are you going to do? We're going to do this, and this building, this to this building. And
Commissioner Wills, so I agree with what you're saying. Could you give a little bit more direction and say, I'd like to see it to where if, let's just say, Jennifer, we were awarded $250,000, it would go this far. If we were given $500,000, it would go this, and then, I believe we have a generator company that is looking at I don't know, and I would love to get their 2 cents on, this is where you're at. They do that. They do it a lot of places, I mean, I know this. Quality Electric had their people, we had our people go through and perform a little bit of an assessment. And I said, man, you could get to $1 million so quick, to get these facilities up and running. And it goes back to, Jennifer, we didn't have any nickels. So we kind of turned a blind eye to a lot of that stuff.
I just hate to miss out on the upcoming, though.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. Remember when Tiger Grant was the fad? Remember when the Tiger Grant was the fad? Shovel ready. Shovel ready was going to save the world,
So was Obama.
You got anything else, Mr. Harris?
Are we through, Jennifer?
We are.
She did, Mom.
Commissioner Turner.
Yes, sir. I talked with Shane. Shane's going to give me the map of the County Road 835 paving plan, if you will. Please shoot that to me, Shane. I do look forward to getting the information from you with regards to the solid waste contracts and what we have with Lee County. The culvert and Mid-State Loop. I'm sure you have a list of things that you're gonna engage on. Pioneer, Ladika, Marl on the roads. Shane, I'll tell you, with the exception of a couple roads, road and bridge is to be commended, in my opinion, on how proactive y'all are being, especially with this weather and the lack of washouts that I saw going through those different roads and stuff. I think we're looking at 13 inches in the last 10 days that we've received just sporadically. It's been absurd, and you may have different numbers depending on what gauge you're looking at. It's been brutal. Wow, that's crazy. I did want to publicly comment on Commissioner Swindle, and I mean that number, man, 632K. That's the real deal right there, buddy. Good job. I want to challenge all of y'all. A couple different things. joint meeting. I know that ours got canceled, and of course now we know that there's a rule that says we have to notify when we're going to do that joint meeting. The city of Clueston now has a city manager. We all met Mr. Martin tonight. I would like to ask our county administrator to set up a joint meeting, just kind of have a vision of whether, I don't know, they flip a coin, put our names in a hat or whatever, but we rotate it through. And I'm hoping that we'll consider doing this biannually. And I know he hates having a meeting anywhere but where we have them and when we have them. But it's why I love you, and I love to aggravate you, Commissioner Harris, is I want to know what the city of LaBelle, what the school board, what the city of Clueston are looking at. And I want them to know exactly what we're doing as well from time to time. And I just think 2 times a year, even if we have to make it on a night, when you pull those names, or however y'all decide to do it, Ms. Davis, then if the city of Clueston comes out first, then listen, we may be sitting out there, or they may move it to the John Boy, but the city of Clueston runs the meeting, and we all come, all of the different boards come, and it's just a quick synopsis of where everybody's at, and there are a lot of municipalities that do that throughout the state. And I think there's something to be gleaned from that for all of us. And then the last thing I have, you all, is priorities for Tallahassee. Tomorrow, September is going to be gone. And so I heard us talk tonight about the force main. There's going to be no ask, I would assume, at least as the board is concerned, there will be no ask. I mean, the Economic Development Council, got $400K for the Henry County Fair and Livestock Show last year. The fair board is going to engage a process of creating a master plan. They're going to go and lobby the city of Clueston for a couple of requests that they have. Really no fiscal impact to the city of Clueston. It may actually be a net gain to them. The point I'm making here is that one of my huge goals is to see that Glades County Training Center get some juice to it. And I don't, I know y'all may think I'm absolutely ludicrous for asking about something in the, on the outskirts of the city of Moore Haven. It may be in Moore Haven. I don't really care. I know this: it's thousands of square feet that are not being used to the best of their advantage to the constituency around the southern rim of the lake, and we need to ask our state legislators to engage on this. It's such a no-brainer for it to be successful. And Commissioner Swindle, I want to hear from you. Why is it a bad thing? And I don't know if Scott Bass still feels this way, the superintendent of Glades County Schools. But the last thing I heard was a flag of I-Tech North out of Collier County and their public school system, what they have. Is that still maybe the temperature in the room, or what?
They were turned down for the first round of grants. They have reapplied, is my understanding.
Okay. And I'm asking for this board, Henry County Board of County Commissioners, to consider that from a legislative appropriation. And I think that it will speak in such volumes if we ask for our administrator to talk to the school superintendent of Glades County Schools. Once again, probably never been done except when we had it the last time we kind of married up and wrote some letters and stuff. And if it ultimately doesn't sit well with y'all, I at least ask for, at minimum, a letter to be put in the jacket for us to be asking what their request is. So that's one of my top 3. My next one of my top 3 would be infrastructure as it relates to not the Everglades project, but the force main that we refer to as the Everglades force main. And that's going to allow for development to occur heading west out of town. And then I hope that would roll right into the city of Clueston and the infrastructure upgrades to their sewer plant. But I don't know how that is. I sent out a very verbose email. I'm kind of known for doing that, asking for the update from Tetra Tech. Have y'all been able to put that together, or have you sent it to me? I don't think you have. No. Okay, good. But you know what I'm driving at, right? So what I asked staff to do, y'all remember when we queued up Tetra Tech to be our technical advisor? Is that a fair statement? What they are? Shane?
They're our utility consultant.
Okay, so they're our utility consultant as it relates to the grant and appropriations that are given. They're going to give us the roadmap of how we're going to get to completion of that project. Ran in 2008, 2006, started attending meetings. I remember us asking for $6 million and $3 million, and we pulled it back. But going all the way back to 2006, I know this was one of the top requests of this board every year going to Tallahassee. And then finally we got into the latter stages of that conversation with the governor's office, but that was 3 governors later. And I remember the conversation so vividly. And the long and the short of it was, we're not giving you $1, because if we gave you everything that you needed times 2 today, you can't do anything. So that's exactly right. We got to be turnkey on the numbers, and let's go with it. And so I've asked staff to show us, once again, that same conversation. If we were awarded all of it tomorrow, what is all of it? what would we be doing, and how are we going to be moving towards meeting? And then if we're awarded just 10% or 25%, what are we going to be doing? Because legislators have asked that. Legislators have said to me, Commissioner, or depending on where the room is, they say it meanly. Sometimes they say it real nicely, but they say, what if we give you $250,000? Can you do something with it? So on and there. So that's
Ready
it.
to turn dirt,
Yes,
they
ma'am.
don't want to give it to you.
So staff knows that, ready to jump on it, and I'm looking forward to them giving that out to all of us so that we can be educated on it.
One thing I would like to add, or maybe just throw out there to see what we collectively think about this. The conversation has focused, as mine did as well, around the infrastructure from Everglades into Force Main. I would hope that that's going to continue moving forward, and I do believe that it will. I believe that we need to start looking elsewhere because we're going to have other infrastructure needs that the growth is going to cause. And if we don't start looking at what those other infrastructure needs are, we're going to be behind the 8 ball again. And then, so I think that maybe now is a good time to start looking proactively about what that growth is going to look like.
Two things. We do have, I'm sorry, when you first asked that question, I was thinking of another question you had asked. We did ask Tetra Tech of what $1 million, because we only got $1 million of what that would look like, and they gave us it's very general synopsis of what that line would look like coming from the first pump station in Everglades proper out to 27 and down 27 for, yeah, you can speak more.
For the record, Shane Parker, it would go from the master pump station just south of the old Ocean Boy building where the tank wash is now, north to 27 on the south side of 27 on the berm, all the way to the edge of the county property with a lift station.
It would stop at the county property.
It would basically stop at the county property to a lift station.
With $1 million, they could do that much?
That much, and that includes required CEI services for inspections and stuff like that.
That's good.
That would get you $1 million. That would get you through the county property, basically just on county property.
This opens up to 31 other different questions.
Yeah.
I want to know whether there are 12 easements there. Have they all been contacted? Have they all signed off? Where are we at with that? Where is the design going? Where is the location going to be? I don't understand. I want to know those things.
I thought we seen that in the presentation that Mr. Nelson did.
And I want to see. I've never heard that we're going from Everglades back. So that's good too. And then our path is already designed now. We know where we're going. We had a south and we had a north. I don't think we ever decided on that.
It was decided.
Good.
And I'm reviewing the 100% plans. DEP's issued a permit already for the force main. We just got to sign some easements going from Everglades to the wastewater plant.
So is your goal to be, and then the other question I have is, in the event you turn that dirt and you start doing that, and you expend that $1 million, and then everything happens, does that system now become dilapidated?
No.
Okay.
It's going to be buried. It'll be a dry line. I mean, I guess they could pump it backwards if you wanted to tie into it and pump it back if you had something on airport that would need it. But right now, there'd be no uses there. It would just be a dry line.
Seems rather asinine, but okay.
But the intent would be to push it across.
Well, to that point, I asked that question the other way because I felt the same way when I got that information. And I said, well, wouldn't you go from the city of Clewiston the other way? Because then it's connected to something. But then because of the way the path is,
right,
it would end up in the middle of a cane field, correct?
Yes.
That's okay.
Yeah.
It ends up in so what? You're $1 million hard, and it's going to be there in perpetuity. Is that correct?
That's correct. Well,
I'm no engineer, but it seems kind of logical, no? Or am I only one cooking with that?
We're trying to build as much as we can.
Okay. Well, can I see said much as we can and which side we're looking at?
Yeah.
And I would love to see the cities lift in that. Right? I mean, we're not bearing the brunt of all of it, are we? Even to the city and expanding their facility, surely they're going to do some lifting there as well.
There has to be. And Jennifer, I mean, the overall ask, let's just say you build it out and you do what they need. At one point, you're like at $12 million.
11 or 12 million is where we were.
So the city's portion was to expand their plant. And so expand their capacity. The force main was $4 million. The difference was the city of Clewiston. They have some grant money right now, and I don't know where they are. They may already have it completed or just completed an I&I project that increased their capacity. So we do also have information from Tetra Tech showing with the increased capacity that this I&I project that they just completed or they're in the process of completing, it would grant enough capacity to serve the force main and we did that before even the legislation session last year, so we could say, yes, if you give us this $4 million, that the city of Clewiston can handle the capacity. And I don't remember all the numbers off the top of my head, but it was sufficient for quite a few hookups or different kinds of uses for a period of time. So that was important to be able to communicate that, to say, yeah, if you give us the money, we can use it. The city of Clewiston can handle it, for a period of time. There will be a threshold at some point in time where they have to have it,
a major
obviously.
expansion.
Yeah, but so that's that. And then with the comment about the other infrastructure, we are working on a countywide infrastructure map. Shane's working on that now, showing all the infrastructure lines countywide, because we get asked that all the time. We started, we have a meeting, I have a meeting next week with the new City of Clewiston manager. Out of that meeting, I hope we get a recurring meeting every month with staff. We talked about you all as boards getting together, but from a staff perspective, we already started doing that with the City of LaBelle, and that's exactly what we're talking about, is infrastructure and how we might be able to partner with even potentially the City of LaBelle in the unincorporated area on the west side. We're talking about the force main over here on the east side, but it's important to look countywide. And so we started those conversations with them to see what is the best, most economic solution, for the taxpayers to come up with the infrastructure that we need for growth. And so I think, Margaret, you can, agree or disagree, but I thought it was a very productive meeting.
I agree.
Yeah.
Well, Jennifer, I'm so happy to hear, Shane, what you said about that pipe coming from our plant out there, going to the edge of our county property, or potentially coming and stopping in the middle of the cane field. I'd love to see those two different, scenarios presented. At the same time, I understand that there's an undue burden that we could potentially lay on the city of Clewiston on their sewer plant. So that's not my goal here. And I remember that was one of the issues that kind of stopped this conversation years back, was the city of Clewiston, kind of, I don't want to say they were lobbying against it, but it was like, hey, we don't necessarily, we're not trying to work against y'all, but at the same time, in the event y'all were able to get this, we can't deal with the capacity. So, what I envision, Shane, is line sitting there, diaphragm in it. It's, there's nothing there. But now, when Racetrack gas station is contemplating setting up their next facility, they can look at the Highway 27 corridor and say, okay, we don't have the cost of infrastructure burden that we normally would have, because there is no sewer or water hookup in the ground as it exists today. But we do know that those municipalities are working together. They have a plan in place, and with just a couple $1 million, they're going to be able to meet the need that we have. And we're thinking that in 730 days that's going to happen. I'm going to tell you, the big boxes have assessed us, and they've already looked at our corridors, and they say your infrastructure doesn't meet the standard that we need in order for us to be able to turn dirt. And so we're going elsewhere. And so this isn't me. You understand, Shane? I'm not mad. I mean, I'm just wanting to know where we're at, because I think that this is, we were told forever we couldn't do all of Highway 80 4-lane, and we couldn't get the 2780 corridor fixed. Well, guess what, guys? We did. Congratulations. And that is because of relationships that y'all have in District 1, and y'all hammered on the right doors and demanded that action be taken. And now I just think this is the next natural step towards that. And, so I'm happy to hear that y'all are going to be meeting with the different municipalities too, and knowing where their infrastructure needs are, instead of it's, oh, hey, by the way, we're putting this in the ground, and kind of a cool idea. Well, that doesn't have any use for us, or it's phased out. I don't want to take a couple $1 million of the state's money, and then in the event whatever development does occur, it's no longer utilized. I think, man, that's just a poor use of the taxpayers' dollars. And I got to roll back to my man Don, who told us all the time, there ain't no grant that's free, so somebody's paying for it. And I remember him saying it, and you've told me that a couple times as well, my man. So that's it. Thank y'all. Last thing, and I will hush, I promise, Mr. Chair, is recreation workshop. I know we got a lot of things on our plate, but the Harlem pool's still open, right?
Still open.
I want to challenge some people to have a recreational basketball league that the county's leading. I know we give the city of Clewiston 175, 174, I don't know, plus minus. I'm looking forward to hearing what the city of Clewiston, I've heard some chatter that they're going to ask us to maybe front some other things, or at least look at where the dollars and cents are going. And so I can't wait for us to know where all of our dollars and cents are rounding at. I know that we've got a lot of budgets that are balanced as it relates to that, and I'm looking forward to hearing what you guys are doing on the west side as well, because, you know, I've always said y'all are the template for what everybody needs to be modeling. So good. So thank you, Mr. Chair.
Okay. Shane got a bunch of questions, so make yourself comfortable up there. Take off your shoes if you need to. Let's start with the hot topic first. 14 Road, where are we at? What's going on with that? What's going on?
Waiting on the contractor to give us his corrective plan of action. We gave him.
Waiting on this cat forever.
We have, and he's still within contract time frame. I was assured we were going to have something Friday, then it was Monday, but we're not going to be out because we have a bond. Still has. We haven't paid him everything on the contract, so if we have to go after him, we have to. But if he doesn't meet contract time, he's into liquidated damages. But I haven't seen it, but my office told me he mobilized some equipment last week to the road.
I was out there several times, didn't see nobody.
No, I didn't say it on the road. He mobilized some equipment out for the.
Drove around the grass there a little bit or something.
No, he just moved some equipment in that staging area yard.
It's just getting ridiculous. I mean, this is way beyond anything we've had to deal with. This company has really been a thorn.
It has.
And that's a bad area. It's one of our higher tax districts in the county, and these folks are putting up with this mess. So going forward, we really need to be looking at who's bidding on these contracts and if they're going to get it done or not. If they're not going to get it done, and I got to pay a little bit more, I'd rather pay a little bit more and get a good product and get it done than to have people beating on my window and door every night saying, you know what, I'm still driving through a mess. There's potholes already. They're cutting out. I get it. That's ridiculous.
Right.
So that's the first one. Second one, let's talk about the 20 inches in Felda.
Okay.
Where are we at on the pond? I've heard nothing. Have they not got back with you? The Willow Pond is being filled up. Where are we at on that?
I have not heard back. I sent you all the emails I had.
Well, what do we got to do to take the next level then? Do we need to knock on somebody else's door, call somebody else's phone, or?
I can ask.
These people are getting flooded. I went by there myself and actually seen them dumping in the Willow Pond.
I mean, I can call the DEP director, John Eigelhart, and ask him.
We need something.
That'd be the only person I know to call.
I mean, I tell these people all the time, yeah, the water's supposed to go down to 29, it's supposed to go north. Well, it doesn't. So what do we got to do to fix it? You know, we got stuff filling in out there. These are questions that I'm getting asked. I've been asking for a while now, and
what part on
the water? The water with like this pond. This pond's been over a year. We've been working on this pond.
I know about, but what are you talking about? The drain?
The drainage is going down Church Road.
Oh.
And actually Tanner Road. Tanner Road's supposed to come to 29, go under 29. It's always been that way, but it's never done it. So what are we going to do to get the water off these folks? Just telling them, hey, the water is supposed to go this way and it's supposed to do that, that's not getting it. We got to figure out some way to alleviate that water. I get it. We're waiting on the DOT and we're at their mercy. But again, they're not paying DOT taxes. They're paying Henry County taxes. And moving through the water issues, Sears Road. Have we ever taken a look at that? I asked a couple years now. I've been asking about the drainage there. That road's flooded. It gets underwater. That little bit of rain, and it's just underwater.
No, sir. We have not done anything with Sears Road yet.
Okay. Well, Mr. Harris, all your roads are paved, so we're going to leave North Cabell alone for a while. We need to come down south for a little while.
Second.
Spend a little time in Felda. Spend a little time on Sears Road. But these are questions that I'm getting asked every day, and I've been asked for. I'm going on my third year now. And I really don't want to keep telling them the same answers, so we got to come up with some different answers. I did hear the possibility of some temporary lighting coming for the extension that's been put in.
Yep.
So that's the good news, I guess.
Well, we had a meeting in Bartow Friday about that with not the secretary, but one of his traffic operation engineers. So Johnson's going to design the MOT so the contractor doesn't have to submit it to DOT to review and see if they'll accept it, and then give it back to Ajax to come up with a price.
Mr. Chair.
So.
Yes, sir.
What is holding Helms? It's the street lighting. It's not the red, yellow, greens.
You know, it's
Just to recap, staff's got permission from DOT to install signals because we believe there's a safety issue.
Yes,
we
sir.
don't want to open the road up and someone get an accident and then sue the county.
Yes, sir.
So right now the road's closed.
Yes, sir.
We just finally got the signal plans approved, but there's a long lead time on those signals. And one of them
is it string poles or is it monotubes or cantilevers?
No, it's the mast arms.
Okay.
Now the one set of mast arms they want us to install, they wouldn't let us do a diagonal crossing. They refused. But in speaking to DOT, they're like, listen, we're going to back off that. You can do that. No problem. That's at the 29. We'll probably save about $150,000 to $200,000 of taxpayers' dollars of state money.
Yes, sir.
So that's good. And Johnson's moving forward with that. Then at the 80 Helms Road intersection, we're going to do a temporary, they call it maintenance of traffic, DOT, temporary signals, put them up.
Yep.
And then they don't have to meet the same wind load requirements as the mast arms do. It's just temporary, so they don't have to meet all the restrictions. They have some restrictions that we'll be responsible for. Once those get designed, DOT approves them, we install those. Why the lead time items are in works, why they're ordering the mast arms and stuff like that.
Shane, we can't declare it an emergency contract because there is no life safety issue, correct?
Right, there's none. There's none right yet because the road's not open. But we have a contract with Ajax. All we have to do is get a change order from them once we give them a set of plans.
So DOT has not made Ajax close out that contract. They're not getting LDs or anything like that. They're
No,
okay.
the contract's with us, not with the state gave us the money. We have the contract with Ajax.
And how much money do we have sitting in an account right now?
Oh, I don't know, a couple million, but with on their contract, there's not that much.
Wait, I'm sorry, boss.
We
don't have a couple million sitting in the account for Helms Road
It's
signals.
not setting in the account, it's a reimbursable. Like, there's a 5-year funding agreement we have from the state.
We still have at least 7 figures in an account as it relates to the Helms Road extension.
Yes, sir. But not in our pockets. It's we spend
Okay,
it
I got
to
you. We have
reimburse
to
it.
expend it. It's what Miss
Right.
Butler yells at me all the time.
Right.
You think these grants are free, but
Right.
baby, we got to front this money. And I say, yes, ma'am, I know.
Exactly.
Okay, so Shane, do you want me to keep my mouth shut, or do you want us to engage the process? I promise to be very diplomatic, but this goes to I mean, you have a beautiful piece of infrastructure. Millions of dollars have been spent up to this point, but now we're sitting on go. And one of my colleagues is getting hammered on because we're incompetent as a county. And you're not incompetent, and he's not incompetent. Heck, he don't have anything to do with it.
Right.
But it's just the persona of, it's the perception of what the public is saying. And I know what he's going through because,
Flagel Road.
Keep going. You want to?
Yeah.
Well, you know, right? We've all been there. And I promise you, they do not get on to you at Rib City in Buckingham. But at Beef O'Brady's or Forey Grill, I lose 3 to 5 pounds every time I go in there.
Well, the question is, why would they put you on a road project that everyone's reading about in the paper and you can't get Helms Road open?
Say what now?
That's
Oh,
the
yeah.
question I'm getting.
Oh, yeah.
Why would they put you on a road project when you can't get Helms Road open?
Why would they put who? Me?
Yeah.
Me.
Oh, you?
Oh, Clusabel, yeah, they put
told
it out
them.
there that I'm on the new project, but they want to know why in the world they'd pick you when you can't even get Helms Road open. I'm thinking, you know
That
what?
stings, man.
That's an amazing question. So let's see if we can get Helms Road open.
And that was his wife.
So,
Oh, boy.
But Shane, do you think
No,
you're
it's just
close?
reality,
Do you
though.
think you're? No, it's a great analogy. I understand what you're saying.
I'll put it this way with you. Right now, we got the plans back. We're waiting on Ajax to give us a price for the mast arms. We have it.
Okay.
The lead time from the time you order the shop drawings, we're being told is 20 to 22 weeks.
so
You're talking about only getting the mast arms
On the
built.
mast arms, from the time, that's not,
That's just
That's
you got to
not-
get them off galvanized. You got to get all that stuff.
you got to
That's-
bring the change order to the board to get it approved. And then once they get the shop drawings you approve the shop drawings, that's 22 weeks, 20
No,
to 22
Shane.
weeks.
Shane.
But
listen, let's take 4 to 6 weeks off of that right now.
That's what we're being told by Ajax. Now,
No,
could
it is
happen-
true. There's only 2 places in the state that are galvanizing those things right now,
And then-
and it's I think it's 18 weeks from the moment you order them, unless it is a declared emergency by DOT. At which point, then they'll put you in line. And with the state exploding like it is, and all of the dollars that are out there, and all of the intersection improvements that are occurring in Miami-Dade and Broward, they're kind of backlogged a little bit.
So
anyway, the bottom line.
But let's get us out of the
But the
equation.
maintenance of traffic, the temporary maintenance of temporary signals as a form of
They can do
maintenance of
that in
traffic.
15 days.
Anyway, when
Max.
We get the plans done by Johnson. Well, actually, Johnson's having KCA do them as a subconsultant because they've done them before. DOT's promised to review them quickly within 3 days, get them approved. If they do, we get a change order from Ajax, come back here for board approval, and then we give them the green light
But
to do
anyway,
it.
Shane, when you go to the post office,
Yes.
all they want to know is when.
I know, I have it. I get beat up too.
So-
Commissioner Harris, I'm trying to help. Let me ask this, Commissioner Harris, please. Let me ask this.
We asked it every
You
day.
got a bunch of money, Shane.
Yes.
you're not talking about $1 million per intersection. You're talking about more along the lines of $500,000 if you went monotubes across the daggum road.
Both mast arm intersections, about $1 million.
Okay.
To do both.
So $500,000 apiece.
No,
$1 million and $1 million?
no, it's $1 million total, but it's
Okay,
more
so,
for the
so
80s.
80 is going to be much
80 is
greater.
gonna
Yes,
be
sir.
more,
Yeah.
right.
But it's still not going to be 750, 250. Here's the point I'm making. If you're shutting down, you can get the orange arm that goes over, has the red, yellow, green. It's on an existing loop or it's on a timer. Shane, you can fix this and you can get that road open on a temporary basis on what FDOT is going to accept as safety, and John and Jane Q are going to be utilizing it. You're going to take the heat off while they are simultaneously putting the order in to get said monotubes or cantilevers or whatever it is built.
That's what we're doing now. That's what we're doing now.
No, that's not what he told us. He told us a slight variation of that. He said they're going to do that on the 80 intersection, not anything about 29. So 29, they're going to go ahead and build it.
80.
Or if you have that much money, you can put 2 string poles in the ground running across the line.
On the ones at 80, we're going to build it, but they're going to do the temporary signals there.
Okay.
The maintenance of traffic. On the 29 side, we're not going to do temporary signals.
Yep, you're going to do the whole thing.
The DOT has changed their mind and said they will approve a deviation to do diagonal strain poles, and we can get concrete poles, which are pretty much on the shelf.
Well, then you're back.
So,
you ain't a $250,000 then. So
right, we're going to save $200,000 there at that intersection.
Absolutely. Shane,
so
what's your timeline on 29? So what are you saying? Because that's a boilerplate spec that's sitting on the shelf somewhere.
Don't have a timeline. Just had the meeting Friday. I'm waiting on.
Gotta add it up.
I'm gonna ask you every meeting now.
I believe you will.
But I really think you need to get us
email
out of
you
this.
every day.
Commissioner, I think it's legal. It is legal for us to approve a number not to exceed and let you go and get us out of this, Shane. Instead of coming back for a change order, come back and ask for permission or forgiveness, because it's the state is going to reimburse it. You're not going to go in there and build the Taj Mahal of intersections. Let's get it done and quit asking for our permission.
We don't have to have anything from Johnson to do it. They already under contract. They got plenty of money. They're able to do it. It's a change order coming back from Ajax that you need to approve. That's going to say it's going to cost $200,000 to do the temporary, or $100,000.
But guess what we're going to say? It's going to be a 5-0 vote of support.
Okay. Right.
So.
I guess you could. I don't know why you couldn't approve
He didn't like
in
it.
advance.
Well, the fact that he's saying it this way, I don't even know who this guy is right now. Because normally it was like, oh no, hold on.
It's a change order. I mean, we're not going to sign it, of course,
Not
until we
gonna sign
have
it.
it.
Yeah.
But your approval is.
But tell us how to word it.
Unless you want to put a cap on it of some sort. I mean, a dollar cap.
It's at $750,000. It's not going to exceed $750,000. It's not going to be $500,000. And if you're telling me it's concrete string poles going across, it's not going to be $250,000 for that either.
So come out with a price.
So come on, Shane.
I'll get back with you on number.
No, man.
I would do.
Let's go $750,000 and tell Ajax they got to work under it.
That's fine.
They're going to be way under that.
That's fine. $750,000.
And we're talking about the 29.
Yes.
Oh, it'd
29
definitely be under.
intersection.
That would definitely be under.
29 and 80.
29 and a temporary 80.
Yeah, you could probably do it for that.
Your total package, Mark, will not be $1 million to put signals up on both of those intersections.
I think I don't know how much temporary MOT costs. I don't know if they're going to have to use. This is the other caveat. Depending on how far they have to strain across 80, you don't know if they're going to have to use temporary concrete poles or they're going to have to use wood poles, because they can't do a diagonal there with wood poles. It's too much.
Well, we could go high.
They're going to do cantilever.
But
because he's not.
I mean, you could do $750,000.
Okay.
I make a motion that the board approves $750,000 for Shane to bring back to us. And if they're not a GMP, but if there isn't
It's a change order.
Seating of that,
You want to authorize a change order with Ajax for both intersections, traffic lights, not to exceed a total of $750,000.
with the goal of getting the Helms Road extension open ASAP.
And I want to be clear: is that the mast arm for?
It's temporary.
All of this is the temporary.
This is it'd be the permanent at 29.
And the temporary for 80.
Temporary for 80.
And then the permanent for 80 will not be.
Has to come back.
It's going to have to come back.
Okay.
That may be $1 million itself if they go monotubes across the road.
Ready to be open.
Yep.
So we need to move forward. We've got a motion and a second on that. We got a motion by Commissioner Turner, second by Commissioner Harris.
And you're authorizing the chairman to sign the change order to be prepared and approved by staff.
Yes, sir.
Yeah.
You'll sign it.
But you ain't sitting on us.
All right.
Sounds good.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries.
Can I just add one more thing?
Oh,
I
boy.
hear it all the time. I got questioned by commissioners. The road's not striped. The reason it's not striped is because
Liability.
why waste it when you can put the signals in, they stripe it all at one time? Because we could
Stripe
stripe it and we stop short of the intersection, we put the signals in, they would go ahead and stripe it. So you just do it all at one time.
Absolutely.
You can do it while you're putting the lights up.
Yes. So I just
Then
want to
you
clear
gotta-
that misnomer up.
You gotta get the mower going too.
He's mowing today. I saw him there.
Yeah.
Shane, you would agree that your ability to call Ajax and or Johnson Engineering and say that we've just done this does kind of put a little bit of excitement into their conversation.
I'm sure it does, but I mean, they have been working with us. It hasn't been them holding anything up, I can assure you.
I don't see no Ajax trucks out there. I just see Bob's barricades or somebody's stuff. So
I know.
they're peace out working on another project somewhere else. So
It was on DOT side, and they apologized and promised 3-day turnaround.
yeah.
So the secretary helped out.
Yeah.
All right, well, that's all I got. The last thing is the cemetery, and we'll talk about that later. I just want to know if we're moving forward on Fort Deneau. So we are running, we're getting shorter and shorter as far as lots out there.
And they keep down.
And I've been saying this for a couple of years now, so we really, I don't know where we're at or what's going on. And I don't know if that's a Shane question or not. It may not be. I don't know.
It is.
Is that going to be a Shane one too? Okay.
We
So,
can, we can
just-
talk about it at the workshop.
yeah, I just wanted to make sure we hadn't forgotten about it. That's all. But it's filling. Miss Butler's sitting there shaking her head. She sees it every day too. It's filling up.
I thought that was part of the money we agreed on the
Well, we
line
just
of
haven't-
credit. Did
that's what I'm wondering
We just
where
haven't
we're
done
at.
it yet. Is
It
all.
is.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, we haven't done anything.
I
So.
think we need to give Shane a little bit more to do.
Yeah. Right. Yeah.
Well, Tommy's going to help him.
Tommy's
Mr.
gonna
Chair,
help him.
we got a text today. Scared the bejesus out of me. What's moving when?
Okay, so the workshop was,
Oh, yeah.
the budget workshop was gonna be at before the next board meeting on the 27th. And we were looking to move it to the 3rd, the following Tuesday. Commissioner Wills is gonna be in Tampa most of the day, all day on the 27th and
That's that first meeting of the core meeting for the.
for,
Okay.
yeah.
I got you.
I know. I think we'll see if we can change that with me or you, or, you know.
And today's the 12th, so we would be inside the threshold to move that meeting to the 29th or something like that, right? So, you know what I mean?
Oh,
Move-
yeah, if you could.
I mean, if everybody's good with the 3rd, that's fine too.
Third, I
I
think
just thought that
everybody-
was the holiday weekend, so people
everybody
might be
agree
going.
on the 3rd?
I'm actually going to be here. I can't believe it.
The
That is a
second
holiday
is
weekend, yeah.
holiday.
Everybody
be here
agreed
too.
on third.
Whatever works best for y'all. And
We
the
can-
last meeting I have scheduled that day, it starts at 4:45 in Tampa.
You
Yeah,
won't
you
be
ain't
back.
I'm
gonna
gonna
make
try
it.
to get out of that. It's actually a public forum part of the section is what it is.
Yeah, but even then,
But I wouldn't make
you
it.
leave
too
at
bad.
I'm
3.
not sure I'll make it back for the meeting, so Miss Bird, she's gonna be running the meeting.
Yeah.
Oh, Lord, we're in trouble now.
Well, we can come up with some alternative dates and send to you.
I'm good. I'm pretty sure I'm good with the 3rd, but I
Okay.
just want to make sure everybody's good.
It's the day after the holiday weekend, right?
It's
think
the
so,
day
yes,
after,
yes.
yeah.
We're all good, right?
We're all good. Yeah.
Okay,
The third's good. That's fine.
that's why, yeah.
The
Thank
Tiger
you,
Drake's
everyone.
still
That's it. Meeting adjourned.